Chapter 566. You don't even know me. What's there to look up to? Mo sure retorted with a single sentence. He really didn't have a good impression of this guy. Everyone around was speechless. It was just a polite greeting. What did he want others to look up to? And this was young Master Lei Ren. He said that he had heard a lot about you and you actually asked him what he had heard about you. Wasn't this too unappreciative? Young Master Lei Ren should be angry this time. However, to their surprise, Lei Ren was stunned for a moment and then laughed. He said, Mr. Mo is too humorous. I just feel close to Mr. Mo as soon as I see him. Then he sat down on the chair next to Wang Yi and said, Mr. Mo, you don't know. Since I was young, everyone who saw me either ran away or obeyed me. I wanted to interact with them as an ordinary person, but what I got in return was alienation. It's rare to see someone like you who treats me like an ordinary person. It seems that I'm fated to meet you. Today let's drink until we're drunk. As he spoke, he poured a glass of wine for Mo sure. Then he poured himself a glass. Then he clinked his glass with Mo sure's and said, Mr. Mo, then I'll drink first. Then he drank the glass of wine in one gulp. Mo sure didn't know what kind of medicine this guy was selling in his gourd. He immediately plundered this guy's memory and took a look. With this look he couldn't help but understand. What this guy said was actually the truth. Although this guy was known as the #1 playboy in a radius of thousands of kilometers. But apart from the arrogant and domineering appearance on the surface, his mind was actually very simple. Imagine he grew up under the protection of his parents and no one dared to say no to him. Everything he encountered was always smooth sailing. How shrewd could such a person be? And what he said was that he saw that Mo sure's attitude towards him was completely different from other people's attitude towards him, so he was very interested in Mo sure. This was also true. Thinking of this, Mo sure shook his head, picked up the glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. Lei Ren was overjoyed when he saw that Mo sure had finally reacted. She quickly filled Mo sure's glass to the brim. Then he filled his cup and raised it saying, Just now my blind servants offended Mr. Mo. I'll punish myself by drinking 3 cups as an apology to Mr. Mo. As he spoke, he drank 3 glasses in a row. Everyone was speechless when they saw this. It was getting harder and harder to understand. When Mo sure saw that this fellow had punished himself with 3 cups of wine, he no longer cared about the matter of being offended by this fellow's servants. He said, all right, let's forget about this matter. I'm not a narrow-minded person. From Lei Ren's memories, Mo sure knew that not only was the Lei family powerful, but the brothers of the Lei family who had been on the battlefield were now officials all over the planet. Some of them were even transferred to other higher-level planets. Therefore, as long as he could get on the Lei family's good side, getting a new genetic code should be a piece of cake. Of course, this genetic code couldn't be Mo sure's own. Otherwise, if he committed a crime, they would be able to find out his genetic code based on any traces of hair or skin left behind at the scene. Therefore, this matter had to be faked. If it was faked in private, it would be easily exposed. But if it was faked by the government, then it would be faked to be real. He knew that this Lei Ren lacked someone who could talk to him as an equal, and not someone he had to curry favor with. Therefore, if he wanted to get this fellow, he couldn't be like the others and lower himself in front of him, but he couldn't always act high and mighty either. When Lei Ren saw that Mo sure had spoken, he was instantly overjoyed. He said, Mr. Mo, we hit it off at first sight today. Let's drink until we're drunk, how about that? Mo sure nodded, Then the two of them started drinking. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw this. They started drinking just like that? Would beating up young Master Lei's servants make young Master Lei happy? This was really unfathomable. The two of them drank for more than 3 hours. After Lei Ren drank too much, he was completely like a child. Thinking about it, after all, he was only in his 20s. He grew up under the wings of his parents since he was young. 3 hours later it was noon. Mo sure was already slightly drunk. This surprised him. With his strength, he wouldn't get drunk no matter how much wine he drank in the flaming beginning continent. He didn't expect that here. The two of them only drank 5 bottles of wine, and their heads were slightly dizzy. It seemed that the wine here was also made. In fact, Mo sure's guess was right. All the wine in the myriad dragon realm contained a trace element. If one ingested too much of this trace element, it would be like drinking wine with slow reactions, dizziness and nausea. In serious cases, one would even vomit. At this time, Lei Ren was already tongue-tied and his words were unclear. He put his arm around Wang Yi's shoulder and said, Brother Mo, let me tell you, I Lei Ren have never made a close friend in my life. Those guys who are familiar with me are all F*** king, bad friends, fair weather friends. You are the only close friend I've made in my life. We are sworn brothers. I'll call you brother in the future. You call me brother. Emo sure saw that this guy had drunk too much, so he stuck his head out of the window. He shouted to the servants at the door, "Your master is drunk, send him back." Hearing this, the servants hurriedly went up to the second floor. Seeing Lei Ren's drunken appearance, they hurriedly helped Lei Ren up. At the same time, they were very surprised by Emo Sure. What magic could this guy have? He was obviously cursing the young master to die, but in the end he could make the young master spend money to treat him to wine. He was also very drunk. How could this be reasonable? Lei Ren saw that the crowd was about to take him away, so he hurriedly said, "Emo, brother Emo, please stay in our Lei family for a few days. I still have a lot to say. I want to tell you. I will treat you well." Emo sure shook his head. If he went to the Lei family rashly with Lei Ming's experience, he would definitely be on guard against him. "Young Master Lei, let's do it another day. I'm afraid it will be inconvenient for me to disturb the Lei family rashly." "No." Lei Ren broke free from the hands of the mustache man and said, "There's no need to do it another day, it's better to do it now. Today you must go. Or else. You look down on me, Lei Ren." Emo Sure nodded, "Then I'll look down on you." Lei Ren laughed and leaned on Emo Sure's shoulder. "Brother Emo is so humorous. Let's go. If you don't leave today, I won't leave either." Then he shouted, "Manager, add a few more dishes, and bring 2 more bottles of wine. We will continue to drink." Chapter 567. Emo Sure did not want to go to the Lei family immediately. But he was entangled by Lei Ren. "Brother Emo, if you don't go today, I won't leave either." As he spoke, he asked the manager to serve the wine and dishes. The servants looked at Emo Sure, each of them revealing a trace of pleading eyes. Master had stipulated that they must bring the young master back before lunch every day. Otherwise they would be punished for their crimes. Emo Sure also wanted to build a good relationship with the Lei family, so he nodded. "All right, I'll send you back then." The few servants were overjoyed when they saw this. They quickly helped Lei Ren up and walked towards the house. Soon, Emo Sure followed them to the Lei family's house. It was also the Hidden Dragon City's City Lord Mansion. The City Lord Mansion was grand and majestic. There were 2 stone dragon statues at the entrance. Each of them was more than 10 meters long and 3 meters tall. What surprised Emo Sure was that these 2 dragon statues were exactly the same as the divine dragons in Chinese mythology. Prawn eyes, antlers, cow nose, dog mouth, catfish whiskers, lion mane, eagle claws, fish scales, snake tail. The 2 divine dragons were of different shapes. One of them stepped on a cloud and roared towards the sky. The other body was like a ring looking down at the earth. It implied that the dragon beast controlled the power of heaven and earth. Their claws, teeth, and scales were all carved vividly. Lei Ren saw that Emo Sure was staring at the 2 stone dragons. He could not help but laugh and say, "In the legends of the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone? In ancient times, when the dragon race had just appeared, there was a strange beast called the Dragon Beast. This dragon beast could control the power of heaven and earth. It could summon clouds, summon rain, thunder, lightning, frost, and hail. Everything was controlled by the dragon beast. Ah! This was what my mother told me when I was 4 years old. I thought it was amazing. When I grew up, I realized that these were all tricks for children." As he spoke, he patted the stone dragon head that was facing the sky. If there really is a dragon beast, why hasn't it appeared for hundreds of thousands of years? When those few servants saw the situation, they hurriedly supported Lei Ren and walked towards the City Lord Manor. Lei Ren then dragged Emo Sure into the City Lord's mansion. Very quickly, Lei Ren was sent by Lei Ming to the backyard of the Lei family to sober up. Emo Sure originally wanted to leave, but he was stopped by Thundercry. Lei Ming looked like he was in his 50s on Earth. Actually, he was already over 5,000 years old. He had a full beard on his face, making him look like a rugged man. However, he did not know how many dragons in the officialdom had been paralyzed by his boorish appearance and eventually fell into his hands. Lei Ming heard from a few servants that Lei Ren and Emo Sure had been drinking together. He immediately ordered someone to bring out a cup of tea and said with a chuckle, "Mr. Emo, my son has never had a close friend in his life. Today we hit it off at first sight and drank a few more cups. I'm sorry for the trouble. This is a cup of sobering tea. Mr. Emo, please enjoy it while it's still hot." Emo Sure picked up the teacup and drained it in one gulp. It was indeed good tea. After drinking it he felt refreshed. However, from Lei Ming's memories, he knew that Lei Ming had asked people to drink tea to test him. Lei Ming was not as simple as Lei Ren. Lei Ming had fought his way through the battlefield and had been in the officialdom for thousands of years. His shrewdness was not something an ordinary person could compare to. His son had suddenly brought someone back for no reason. Naturally, he had to test him. It looked like he was inviting Immortality to drink tea, but in fact he was using the action of drinking tea to find out about Immortality's family background. If a person had a good family background, there would be many rules and regulations when drinking tea. Therefore, he had to find out what kind of background this person had. Should he befriend or avoid this person? On the other hand, if it was a small family, drinking tea would be to quench their thirst. Naturally, there would not be so many rules. Instead, he drank in big gulps. For such a person, the Lei family could easily manipulate him. Naturally, they would not have so many worries. At this moment, seeing Immortality drinking in big gulps, Lei Ming smiled and nodded. Mr. Imo is not a local, right? He could tell at a glance that Immortality was not a local. If Immortality had not plundered his memories, he would not have known how shrewd this guy was. Every sentence, every word was a test. Immortality nodded, no. He did not reply further. The more he spoke, the more likely he would slip up. At the same time, he thought to himself, if I knew this guy was so shrewd, I would not have come. Now, I don't even dare to say a word. Lei Ming could also tell that Immortality was unwilling to speak, so he did not ask further. Instead, he said, since Mr. Imo is here, please stay with the Lei family for a few days. It is rare for my son to have a close friend. If Mr. Lei does not have any urgent matters, please spend more time with him. Of course, the Lei family will not treat Mr. Imo badly. I, Lei Ming, only have one son. As long as he is happy, everything is negotiable. Immortality pretended to be in a difficult position. After hesitating for a while, he said, okay. That night, Immortality was arranged to stay with the Lei family. At the same time, Lei Ming called the 5 servants over and asked them to report what they had seen and heard today. When he heard that they did not see how Immortality did it and threw the servants out of the window, Lei Ming's eyebrows twitched slightly. Based on his experience, such a guy was either from the big sects of the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone or a fugitive wanted by the universe. According to what the 5 servants said, Mr. Mo's strength should be about the 7th or 8th level, or even the 8th or 9th level of the evolved giant dragon. Of course, it was also possible that he was at the 10th level. If he really reached the 10th level, he would be an absolute expert. How could such a person associate with his thoughtless son? Then Lei Ming sent people to check Immortality's bottom line. As long as this guy left any trace within a radius of thousands of kilometers, he could find it. However, the next morning the 2 people who went to check came back to report, Mayor, there is no news about this guy. His news is only limited to when he entered the city yesterday. It's as if this guy suddenly popped out yesterday. Lei Ming pondered for a while. After a while, he said, if that's the case, then he's probably a senior expert who has been in seclusion for thousands of years. Naturally, we can't find any traces of him. Or he's a member of a more powerful sect or family. No matter where he goes, he can easily erase the traces he leaves behind. But judging from his speech and behavior, he doesn't look like someone from a big sect or family. Then, he's probably a senior expert who has been in seclusion? Lei Hui's heart skipped a beat. If he was really a senior expert who had been in seclusion, then his strength must have surpassed his own. He had reached the super-evolved giant dragon. Although there was only one level between a 10th level evolved giant dragon and a super-evolved giant dragon. But this level was like a natural chasm. He basically had no chance of becoming a super-evolved giant dragon in his life. Maybe there was a little illogical here. Would such a senior expert like him take a fancy to his heartless son and become close friends with him? In fact, it was really possible. And it was very likely. Based on his experience of reading countless people, the stronger the giant dragon, the weirder their personality. Especially many seniors who had reached the super-evolved giant dragon level. Because they had been in seclusion for many years, they basically did not see anyone. Each of them had a very strange personality. For example, he had once seen a big boss who liked to cross-dress. A big boss who liked to steal other giant dragon eggs for no other reason than to eat them. What's more, they liked to collect other giant dragons' poop. It was said that from the poop, one could tell the giant dragon's personality, cultivation, and even where they had been and how many female dragons they had slept with. In comparison, this Mr. Imo seemed much more normal. Chapter 568. Lei Ming guessed Immortality's cultivation level and made up his mind. Then he said to the mustache man, "Alright, you guys are tired today. Go back and rest." The mustache man and the other 5 people felt as if they had been pardoned. They said, "Thank you, master," and quickly retreated. This master was much easier to get along with than the young master. At least the master always looked very kind. The young master, on the other hand, was temperamental. Take today's matter for example. They were clearly avenging the young master, but in the end they were beaten by the young master. How could this be reasonable? Actually, they didn't know that the truth was the opposite. Lei Ren was indeed temperamental. But whether it was joy or anger, it was all on his face. It could be seen at a glance. Lei Ming was the exact opposite. He always had a kind look on his face and seemed to be very kind to everyone. But in fact he was quite shrewd. Before these family retainers entered the city lord's mansion, Lei Ming had already checked all of their backgrounds. He even knew what their ancestors had done 3 generations ago. That night at 3 o'clock, Lei Ming's eyes quietly opened. His left hand gently stroked his right wrist, and an air screen appeared above his right arm. This air screen was implanted with a chip in his right arm. When needed, as long as his left hand gently stroked his right arm, the air screen would be called out. On the screen was the situation in the guest room. In the Lei family there were a total of 10 guest rooms. Half of them were equipped with atomic cameras. This kind of molecular camera directly used every oxygen atom in the air as a camera. The air in the entire room could monitor the people in the room 360 degrees without any blind spots. This technology was obtained from a cutting-edge laboratory with great effort. Ordinary dragons had never even heard of it. The air screen implanted in Lei Ming's right arm was connected to the atomic camera. He saw that Mo Shi was sleeping soundly in the room. But Lei Ming didn't immediately move. Instead he observed for more than half an hour. When he realized that Mo Shi didn't even turn over in this half an hour and slept like a dead pig, he sat up. With a thought, something appeared in his hand from the miniature space. This was because he had a miniature space with him. Some spatial dragons would create miniature spaces and implant them into the AI chip. Then they would implant the chip into the nerves of his arm. When needed, he could summon these miniature spaces with just a thought. Of course, this kind of miniature space was extremely expensive. Ordinary dragons could not afford it at all. Only wealthy clans and sects like the Lei family would have 1 or 2 of them. The device in Lei Ming's hand could emit microwaves to scan the dragon's body. Based on the reflected microwaves, the strength of the dragon's cells could be detected and the level of the dragon could be determined. He turned on the microwave detector. Soon, an invisible microwave was sent out. Their target was Mo Shi, who was in the guest room. A moment later, Mo Shi's rank was displayed on the device's air screen. Tier 4 Super Evolution, hiss. Lei Ming couldn't help but gasp. He had originally thought that Mo Shi would at most be a rank 1 super evolved giant dragon. Who would have thought that it was actually a stage 4 super evolution? One had to know that after becoming a super evolved dragon, the gap between each level was huge. A Tier 2 super evolved colossal dragon could easily defeat 10 Tier 1 super evolved colossal dragons. On the entire Mica planet there were about 1.4 billion giant dragons. Among them, there were only about 10,000 super evolved colossal dragons. As for Tier 2 super evolved colossal dragons, there were only about 2 to 3,000 of them. There were about 4 to 500 Tier 3 super evolved colossal dragons. As for Tier 4 super evolved colossal dragons, there were no more than 80 of them. The top 80 out of the 1.4 billion giant dragons. Just how strong was he? And such a giant dragon was usually the strongest in some sections. Or the strongest in some ancient clans. Which clan or force did this Mr. Mo belong to? Originally he wanted to investigate Mo Shi's strength properly after checking out his strength. But now he quickly dispelled this thought. What a joke, how could he offend a Tier 4 super evolved colossal dragon? His Lei family was only considered the leader within a radius of 1,000 kilometers. And a Tier 4 super evolved colossal dragon was not only strong individually, but the force behind him was definitely a powerful existence within a few 100,000 or even millions of kilometers. Although Lei Ming had some connections on the entire Mica planet, he had started from scratch after all and had only worked hard for a few thousand years. As for those Tier 4 super evolved colossal dragons, which one of them did not have a background of at least 100,000 years? The ones with more than a few 100,000 years. Could not offend, could not offend. Lei Ming hurriedly kept the detector and turned off the screen. His heart that had not felt any waves for thousands of years was now thumping loudly. A Tier 4 super evolved colossal dragon should have extremely sharp senses. Could it be that he felt that he was being watched the moment he entered the room? If he really knew. Damn it, wouldn't that be the end of it? The entire Lei family, the genes that he had worked hard with for thousands of years, would be destroyed because of his stupid decision. It's over, it's over. It's really over this time. He should immediately apologize and take the initiative to ask for his forgiveness. Since he was drinking so happily with Ren-er, he should have some feelings for Ren-er. If he asked nicely, he should not be too angry for Ren-er's sake. But thinking about it, if he went now and disturbed Senior Mo's rest, wouldn't that be a huge sin? Just like that, Lei Ming tossed and turned restlessly that night. He stayed awake until dawn, then he hurriedly got up. He ordered the servants to prepare toiletries. Then he personally carried them to the door of the guest room. When the servants saw that Lei Ming was actually so respectful to this outsider, they were all very surprised. They whispered in private. That Mr. Mo who came yesterday must have an extraordinary identity. Otherwise, the patriarch would not be so respectful to him. This is the first time I've seen the patriarch personally deliver toiletries to a guest. It's really a miracle. Lower your voice. In short, we have to serve Mr. Mo carefully. If we offend him, I don't need to say the consequences. Speaking of this, the few of them secretly trembled in their hearts. Mo sure did not know about this. He placed a virtual watchtower here last night and fell asleep peacefully. The watchtower did not sound the alarm, which meant that no one came to attack him. Naturally, he could sleep peacefully. Mo sure did not wake up until the sun was high in the sky. The moment he opened the guest room door, he could not help but be stunned. He saw Lei Ming holding toiletries and respectfully standing at the door. Seeing that he opened the door, Lei Ming immediately put the toiletries on the ground, then half knelt on the ground and said in fear and trepidation, "Senior Mo, please forgive me. I, Lei Ming, deserve to die. I had eyes but failed to see. Please forgive me." Senior Mo sure was stunned. "You? What crime did you commit?" Chapter 569. Mo sure was stunned when he saw Lei Ming's fearful look. "You? What did you do wrong?" It was just a simple question, but in Lei Ming's ears, it sounded like the other party was asking the obvious. He became even more fearful. I shouldn't have checked your level. I deserve to die." Hearing this, Mo sure finally understood. It turned out that this fellow had probed his level while he was resting. No wonder he was so scared. Mo sure stole Lei Ming's memory and found out that this guy not only checked his level, but also installed a surveillance camera in the room. Was he that perverted? Luckily, he did not do anything out of line last night. Otherwise, if this guy uploaded the video online, damn, he would become a celebrity. Alright, since this guy was so scared, he would add fuel to the fire. Thinking of this, Mo sure revealed an unfathomable smile and casually said, "That's right. Do the guests of the Lei family have to worry about being exposed when they go to the toilet in the middle of the night?" When Lei Ming heard this, beads of cold sweat began to form on his forehead. Sure enough, he was noticed. The perception of a rank 4 super-evolved giant dragon was far beyond his imagination. He knelt even lower, his head almost touching the ground. "Senior Mo, please forgive me. I didn't mean to target you. I was just too worried about my son. Plus, the Lei family has a bit of status and reputation. I feel that everyone who gets close to the Lei family has a motive and I have to investigate them. That's why I made such a stupid move. Senior Mo, please forgive me, Senior." By the time he finished speaking, the clothes on his back had already stuck to his back. When Mo sure saw that this guy's thoughts had changed so much, he was also happy to see it. He immediately said, "Actually, you don't have to worry. I'm not from any big forces or sections. Tens of thousands of years ago, I was just a rogue cultivator. I found a place in the starry sky forest to cultivate. I didn't expect that everything would change when I came out." Hiss. Lei Ming did not neglect Wang Yi because he was not from a big force. Instead, he took a deep breath. If a giant dragon wanted to evolve to super-evolved, talent alone was not enough. Other than talent, you also have to consume a lot of resources. Cell enhancer, liquid cultivation box, universe environment simulation room. The investment involved was simply unimaginable to the average person. This was also one of the reasons that restricted Lei Ming from evolving into a super-evolved giant dragon. Only those sects and families in the star field with deep heritage and great influence could afford such a huge expenditure. If this Senior Mo was not from a large family, it meant that he had relied on his own strength to reach the 4th stage of super-evolution. How abnormal was this talent? It was said that in the history of the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, there were only a handful of people who could cultivate into a super-evolved giant dragon with their own talent. In that case, this Senior Mo was definitely a rare genius. Of course, Lei Ming also doubted the authenticity of Mo Shure's words, but he quickly overturned his doubts. Was there a need for a super-evolved dragon to lie to him? This was like a giant elephant that could casually destroy the world of ants. Was there a need for it to deceive the ants? It didn't make sense. So in the end he chose to believe it. So what if he didn't believe it? Once this senior Mo saw that he didn't believe him at all, he could easily destroy the Lei family if he angered him. From this point of view he could only believe it. Also, if Senior Mo didn't have any other power behind him, could the Lei family be his backer? With Senior Mo's strength, as long as the Lei family could get on his good side, the Lei family would be invincible in the Cloud Sea planet. If Senior Mo wanted to continue cultivating, he would need a huge amount of resources. Although the Lei family didn't have these resources, they still had some connections. When the time came, they could display Senior Mo's strength in front of others, and it wouldn't be a problem to get these resources. This way, the Lei family and Senior Mo would achieve a win-win situation. Thinking of this, Lei Ming's heart skipped a beat. In that case, even if the Lei family couldn't stand shoulder to shoulder with the super sects and families in the star field, at least in the Cloud Sea planet, they would definitely be considered a top power. Of course, all of this had to be planned carefully. It wasn't something that could be decided on a whim. At the same time, he had to observe Senior Mo's character for a while. If this person was treacherous and more shrewd than him, then he definitely couldn't be friends with him. Mo sure once again stole Lei Ming's memories, and he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Since you have feelings and I am interested, then there's no harm in cooperating. However, he couldn't say this out loud. At the same time, he couldn't appear too shrewd. Thinking of this, he seemed to inadvertently sigh. After being in seclusion for tens of thousands of years, the sea has changed into mulberry fields. Before I went into seclusion, I didn't have any genetic code. This time, without a genetic code, I ran into a wall everywhere. If there's really no other way, I can only go to Planet Lord Yunmu tomorrow, reveal my identity, and ask them to create a genetic code for me. Sigh, but if that's the case, I'll have to deal with those people who talk like bureaucrats all day long. Also, the government can track me based on the genetic code. It's troublesome. Hearing this, Lei Ming's thoughts turned. He was trying to guess Mo Shi's intentions. It seemed like this senior needed a genetic code. However, he didn't want to go to the government. Or rather, he didn't want his whereabouts to be controlled by the government. In fact, thinking about it, it made sense. After cultivating to such a level, he still couldn't come and go freely. No one would be willing to do that. Therefore Lei Ming said, actually, if Senior doesn't mind, I can create a genetic code for Senior. Mo sure shook his head. I heard that this bullshit genetic code has to be official. If it's fake, it'll be very difficult to get away with it. Lei Ming smiled and said, Senior, you don't know. In fact, when the government created the genetic code, they also left some backdoor codes. The government also considered that some big shots didn't want to be tracked all the time, so they left these backdoor codes for those big shots. A few years ago, I got such a backdoor code through layers of connections. I originally wanted to use it after I advanced to a super evolved dragon. But looking at the current situation, I'm afraid I won't have a chance in this lifetime. So I gave it to Senior to use. Mo sure was a little puzzled. Backdoor code? Lei Ming explained, this kind of backdoor code doesn't need genetic data. But when you scan the code, you can scan out an identity. It won't affect your normal travel and daily life. After you use it every day if necessary, you can erase the traces of your use on the coding terminal that you carry with you. This can be considered a plug-in developed by the government. So no matter where you go in the future, you won't be afraid that someone will track you. Chapter 570. In the afternoon of the same day, Mo sure got the backdoor code. After implanting the backdoor code in his body, he scanned it with the code scanner and found a virtual identity. Mo sure then opened the backdoor code interface. With Lei Ming's help, he deleted his scan record. In this way, no one would know where Mo sure was at this time. Mo sure nodded with satisfaction. And it's quite useful. Lei Ming, on the other hand, was secretly delighted. This way Senior would owe him a favor. Even if Senior was not willing to work with the Lei family in the future, the favor of a rank 4 super evolved giant dragon would be worth it. What Lei Ming did not know was that because of the backdoor code he gave Mo sure, the government could not track Mo sure's location. This caused many giant dragons to die in the 10,000 dragon starfield. In the next few days, Mo sure stayed in the Lei family. Lei Ming was very respectful to Mo sure. When the servants of the Lei family saw how respectful Lei Ming was to this guest, they became even more respectful. Lei Ren did not know Mo sure's true strength. Because he was familiar with Mo sure at first sight, he brought Mo sure around Hidden Dragon City every day. The entire Hidden Dragon City knew that young Master Lei Ren had made a new friend recently. They were also very polite to Mo sure. Before Mo sure came to the 10,000 dragon starfield, he had always thought that it was very dangerous. Once his identity was exposed, he would face the consequences of being hunted down by tens of thousands of dragons. However, he did not expect that after arriving he would just eat, drink and play. There was no danger at all. However, Emoshir's nerves didn't relax. He took advantage of the time he spent on sightseeing and set up 100 virtual watchtowers around Hidden Dragon City. Only then did he relax a little. This morning, Emoshir had just woken up. He habitually used his dragon's consciousness to scan the surroundings. Very quickly he found the main room where Lei Ming was. Other than Lei Ming, there were two other clansmen wearing the Lei family's uniform. Lei Ming frowned and asked, "How many of our clansmen were injured?" One of the clansmen replied, 23 of our clansmen died and 117 of our employees died. But the teacup in Lei Ming's hand was crushed by him. However, the tea did not flow down. Instead, it was vaporized by a flash of lightning in his hand. The two clansmen lowered their heads, not daring to speak. Lei Ming asked again, "Are you sure it's the two clan?" One of the clansmen replied, "Our lightning attribute energy doesn't have much effect on them. Within a radius of a few thousand kilometers, only the two clans people are able to counter our lightning attribute. So, it's very likely to be someone from the two clan." Two clan? Lei Ming's tone was filled with killing intent. Before the rise of the Lei clan, the two clan was the strongest clan within a 5,000-kilometer radius. After the rise of the Lei clan, the two clan was greatly affected in every industry. Thus, two clan and Lei clan had always been at odds. The Lei clan wanted to destroy the two clan, and the two clan wanted to destroy the Lei clan. However, because both sides were equal in strength, no one could do anything to the other. However, the friction between the two sides never stopped. However, despite the friction, the two sides had never fought over the dragon's life. Who would have thought that the two clan would be so cruel today, killing 23 members of the Lei clan and 100 employees? Lei Ming couldn't understand why the two clan would suddenly cross the line. Weren't they afraid that he would fight them to the death in a fit of anger? At this moment, another person requested to see him. After entering, he bowed and said, "Clan head, our informant in the two clans sent news that the two clan had some unknown method. Within a month, 4 of their clansmen had broken through to rank 10 evolved dragons. Including their clan head, the two clan now has 5 rank 10 evolved dragons." Lei Ming couldn't help but feel angry. No wonder they dared to be so cruel. However, although he was angry, there was nothing he could do. Previously, both sides only had 1 rank 10 evolved dragon each. Thus they could restrain each other. Now that the other side suddenly had 4 more, the balance was instantly broken, and the two clan naturally became arrogant. Should he complain to the government about this? The government wouldn't care about such matters. In fact, the government couldn't wait for these clans to fight. Every single one of these clans would be destroyed. The more clans were destroyed, the easier it would be for the government to unify them. Otherwise, it would be like a warlord, it would be difficult to unify them. Since the government didn't care and he couldn't win, what should he do? After thinking for a long time, he finally made up his mind. He would ask Senior Mo for help. However, he didn't know if Senior Mo was willing to help. Thinking of this, Lei Ming immediately went to Emoshir's room. At this moment, Emoshir had just woken up and washed up. Lei Ming ordered the servants to prepare food. Then he explained the situation. When he finished, the servants just happened to bring the food over. Lei Ming said, "Therefore, I implore Senior Mo to help our Lei clan destroy the two clan." Hearing this, Emoshir was overjoyed. Slaying a dragon, he was more than happy to do so. Lei Ming continued, "After destroying the two clan, you can take all of their dragon coins. Our Lei clan will take over the two clans' assets, but in the future we will split the net income 50-50 with Senior Mo." At this point he seemed to be afraid that Emoshir wouldn't agree. He said, "Of course, if Senior Mo thinks it's too little, we can split it 60-40, or even 70-30. Senior Mo gets 70%, we get 30%. Emoshir listened with a smile on his face. The next moment he suddenly disappeared. Lei Ming was stunned. Where did Mr. Mo suddenly teleport to? However, the distance that a dragon could teleport to was not more than 1,000 meters. He immediately scanned the surroundings. However, he couldn't find any trace of Emoshir. He couldn't help but feel strange. At the same time, Emoshir teleported twice consecutively and arrived at the two clan 2,000 kilometers away. The two clans' courtyard was grand and majestic. The architectural style of the building was rough and unyielding. Almost all the buildings were carved out of stone. Then they were built into houses, walls, bridges, At this moment, Wang Yi, who suddenly appeared above the two clan, attracted the attention of the guards. In the two clans' courtyard, an alarm sounded. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the two clan?" The patriarch of the two clan brought the 4 rank 10 evolved dragons and stepped out. The rest of the two clan members added up to about 300 people. Immortality frowned slightly. That's too little. According to the system, this time he needed to kill 100 giant dragons to level up. Then he would need to kill 500 dragons before he could level up again. He originally thought that there would be at least 600 dragons here, but he didn't expect there to only be 300. However, if he wanted to level up, then so be it, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Thus, with a thought, a blue-white lightning condensed in his right hand. He swung his right arm lightly. Kacha! This lightning struck the head of the two clan. Chapter 571. Swish, swish, swish. The two clan head's body was covered in lightning. His entire body was sent flying by the lightning. When he landed on the ground, he had already turned into a charred corpse. Although the earth element did not fear the lightning element like the wood and water elements, one should not forget that the earth element was not an insulator. Lightning could still cause great damage to their cells. Furthermore, Immortality was a rank 4 super evolved dragon. His energy far exceeded a rank 10 evolved dragon. Moreover, after evolving into a super evolved dragon, his dragon veins had mutated. His lightning was not the same as the lightning of a normal lightning element dragon. His lightning could suppress the self-healing genes of the giant dragons. Therefore, killing the two clan head in one move was a piece of cake. When the rest of the two clans saw this, their expressions changed greatly. Including the two clans' higher-ups who had just evolved into a rank 10 evolved dragon a few days ago. The clan master of a level 10 evolved giant dragon was so easily killed in one move? What kind of strength did the person in the sky have? One must know that the dragon clan's body and self-healing abilities were very strong. Even a super evolved dragon would have to put in a lot of effort to kill an evolved dragon. But now the clan head was killed in one move. What kind of strength did this person have? Could it be that he was the legendary ancient dragon? In the dragon clan's legends, no matter how talented a dragon was, they could only cultivate to a rank 10 super evolved dragon. They could not advance even one step further. Only those dragons with ancient bloodlines could break through the rank 10 super evolved dragon realm and reach the legendary ancient dragon realm. Ancient dragon. He was actually the legendary ancient dragon. It's over, it's over. Two clan, it's over. At the same time, the system's voice sounded in Immortality's mind. Frowny-faced dragon clan's rage. 320? Dragon Palace can be upgraded. Do you wish to upgrade now? Immortality couldn't help being stunned. The Dragon Palace had just been upgraded a few days ago. After the upgrade, the refining stage evolved into the refining dragon stage. Every dragon refining platform could upgrade an ordinary human to an ordinary rank 1 colossal dragon every 10 days. He did not expect that it could be upgraded again in the blink of an eye. Upgrade. Immortality said. The system's voice sounded again. The upgrade of the Dragon Palace will take 24 hours. The dragon refining platform cannot be used during the upgrade. Immortality was already prepared for this. Therefore he didn't mind. At this moment he glanced at the dragons below. There were 320 of them. At this moment, these dragons were fleeing in all directions. The patriarch had been killed in a single strike. If they didn't run now, what were they waiting for? Lightning began to appear on Immortality's body. At first, the lightning was like a small snake flowing all over his body. But soon his entire body was covered with lightning. Gradually, his entire body seemed to have merged with the blue and white lightning. From his appearance, it was impossible to tell what he looked like. A thick lightning bolt with a diameter of 5 meters suddenly struck towards the ground. Crack! An earth-shattering sound rang out. The lightning struck the central watchtower of the two clan. The entire watchtower was instantly smashed into pieces and scattered in all directions. At the same time, the thick lightning instantly radiated outwards in the form of a net. Hey! At this moment, the 322 clan people were all hit by the net. Lightning crawled all over his body. When the lightning disappeared, the 322 clan people had all turned into charred corpses. Thick smoke and dust rose from their bodies. 320 dragons were killed in a single strike. The power of a rank 4 super evolved dragon was terrifying. At the same time, the system's voice sounded in Immortality's mind. Frowny-faced dragon slain. 321,100. Upgrade available. Do you want to upgrade now? Upgrade. Immortality said. This upgrade will take 5 minutes. The system's voice sounded. Emo sure didn't stay any longer. With a thought, he kept the 321 dragon corpses into his space on Earth. Then he flashed and arrived at the surveillance room in the two clans' courtyard. He deleted the surveillance footage and took the astrolabe. Then he teleported twice and returned to the Lei clan. Lei Ming was slightly surprised by his sudden appearance. He was puzzled. Where did Senior Mo go when the dishes were served? Now that he teleported back, what did he do? However, he didn't dare to ask about Senior Mo's private matters. Mo sure only said one sentence, eat. That one sentence made Lei Ming swallow back all the other words he wanted to say. Senior Mo was obviously not willing to help the Lei clan. He could only force a smile and said, Senior Mo, please enjoy your meal. I've already eaten. Mo sure didn't say anything and just continued to eat. Lei Ming had no choice but to leave resentfully. When he returned to his room, he summoned a few of the clan's higher-ups to discuss countermeasures. When the higher-ups asked for Senior Mo's help, Lei Ming shook his head slightly and sighed, Senior Mo, don't worry. Sigh. The higher-ups weren't fools. They knew that Senior Mo wasn't willing to help when they saw Lei Ming's expression. They didn't dare to say anything else and could only discuss other solutions. However, no matter how much they discussed, they still couldn't come up with a solution. In the face of absolute power, all plots and schemes were futile. Just when they were at their wits' end, a clansman's voice came from outside. Patriarch, there's news. Everyone quieted down. Lei Ming frowned slightly. The news from the past 2 days wasn't good. The two clans increased their attack on the Lei clan. Who knew how many properties were taken over and how many clansmen and employees were killed? Damn the two clan. Come in. Lei Ming said in a low voice. Soon the door was pushed open. A clansman walked in. That clansman's face was expressionless. This was what Lei Ming taught him. Don't show your emotions, be calm and collected. Only then can you achieve great things. Soon that clansman cupped his fists and bowed to Lei Ming and the other higher-ups. Jiafeng elders, good news. Lei Ming and the other elders were stunned. With the Lei clan's current situation, there was good news? This came as a surprise to them. That clansman continued, the two clan was destroyed. Lei Ming and the other elders were stunned. What? Lei Ming felt that he didn't hear it clearly, or maybe he heard wrongly. That clansman spoke again, this time with a slightly higher voice. The two clan was destroyed. The 321 people in the two clans' courtyard had all disappeared in a single night, including their patriarch and the 4 rank 10 evolved dragons. At this moment, the entire room was silent. Lei Ming and the other elders looked at each other. Finally, everyone's gaze fell on that clansman. That clansman felt a little smug when he was stared at by the higher-ups. I never thought that I was so important. Chapter 572. While Mo sure was eating breakfast, the system notification sounded in his mind. Promotion successful. Name, Mo sure. Level 5 Super Evolved Dragon, Level 10 Long Yen Sure. Ability. Click to expand. Hearing the system's voice, Mo sure couldn't help but be overjoyed. He leveled up again. It had only been 6 days since he came to the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. He had leveled up 3 times in 6 days. If the other dragons knew about this, they would probably find a piece of tofu and kill themselves. One had to know that the dragons of the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone had long lives. And the increase of their cultivation base was based on their long lives, slowly cultivating and improving. For an ordinary dragon, it was already considered fast for them to level up 1 level in 100 years. Not to mention a super evolved dragon that was 2 realms higher than an evolved dragon. It was common for a super evolved dragon to level up 1 level in 10,000 years. And most of them would never be able to level up again in their lifetime. From this, it could be seen how terrifying it was for Mo sure to level up 3 times in 6 days after becoming a super evolved dragon. At this moment he looked at the dragon slaying points in his mind. Dragon slaying, 221500, the next promotion required him to kill 500 dragons. And after destroying the two family this time, no family would dare to provoke the Lei family in the short term. It seemed that if he wanted to continue to level up, he would have to leave the Lei family. System, sign in for a special event. Destroying the two family was considered a special event. If he signed in, he should be able to succeed. Sign in successful. Sign in event, destroy the two family. Sign in reward, Thunder Attribute Cultivation Technique, Thunder Dragon 9 Transformations, Thunder Attribute Skill, Thunder Dragon 9 Transformations. Mo sure was speechless when he heard these 2 rewards. Did he sign in the wrong position? He clearly destroyed the two family, so why did he sign in a thunder attribute cultivation technique and skill? Moreover, he didn't need to cultivate, so what was the use of this cultivation technique? Moreover, the name of the cultivation technique and the skill are exactly the same, isn't it a little too perfunctory? Mosher did not pay any attention to the cultivation method, instead he took out the lightning attribute skill book, Thunder Dragon 9 Transformations. He looked at the introduction. Thunder Dragon's 9 Transformations controls the thunder attribute energy to condense a thunder attribute energy dragon to attack. Upon reaching the third transformation, one would be able to use the power of heavenly thunder to attack. At the 9th transformation, the sky would be filled with thunder clouds, the sky would collapse, and the earth would be overturned. That was interesting. However, this secret manual still needed to be cultivated, which left Mosher somewhat speechless. But soon he thought of a solution. With a stir of his mind, he arrived on Earth. Then, with a thought, he practiced the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations to the 9th transformation. In the next moment, his Thunder Dragon 9 transformations had already reached great accomplishment. This was the benefit of Earth's space. Here he was a god. With a single thought, all things were born. With a single thought, everything was destroyed. Training a skill was just a matter of minutes. Although Earth's space couldn't affect things in the real world, it was only limited to hardware. Now that I've already practiced it and it's already in my head, can you still dig it out for me? After that, Mosher tested the power of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations. In his right hand, bluish-white lightning energy condensed. It quickly condensed into a lightning dragon in the sky. This lightning dragon was about 10,000 meters long. As it flew through the sky, sparks and lightning flashed along the way. It stirred up the clouds and its momentum was extremely terrifying. Lightning energy was the most unstable of all energy. Generally speaking, it was almost impossible to condense lightning energy into form. Therefore, when lightning dragons used lightning to attack, they would always release energy directly. They wouldn't condense energy pillars, energy blades, or energy spears like other dragons. But the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations could do it. When Emma and the other two saw the clouds rolling in the sky with a terrifying momentum, their expressions changed slightly. More than 10,000 kilometers away, the large group of blood locusts slowly stopped devouring the dragon corpses. They looked up at the sky in horror. Crack, crack. The lightning dragon flew across the sky as if it wanted to split the sky into pieces. However, this was only the first transformation. Then, the second transformation, one dragon turned into 3 dragons. The momentum was even more shocking. The third transformation, 3 lightning dragons turned into 9. The moment the 9 dragons appeared, lightning began to appear in the clouds in the sky. This was because after reaching the third transformation, one could use dragons to trigger astronomical phenomena. One had to know that the power of nature far surpassed that of any creature. Even dragons were no exception. If one could trigger the power of nature to attack, how violent would it be? However, Mosher didn't attack at this moment. Instead, he wanted to continue to the 4th transformation. However, soon the energy in his body was on the verge of exhaustion. His current energy was only enough for him to use the 3rd transformation of the Thunder Dragon. However, it didn't matter. Mosher's mind moved. The energy in his body was instantly full. He continued to the 4th transformation, 27 lightning dragons. The 5th transformation, 81 lightning dragons. The 6th transformation, all the way until the 9th transformation. In the sky, thousands of lightning dragons appeared. Mosher calculated silently in his heart. There should be 6,561 lightning dragons. These 6,561 lightning dragons appeared in the sky at the same time. Their momentum was extremely terrifying. One had to know that each lightning dragon was more than 10,000 meters long, which was 10 kilometers long. More than 6,000 10-kilometer long dragons would be more than 60,000 kilometers long if they were lined up. Moreover, more than 6,000 lightning dragons were still wandering in the sky. It caused the sky to be filled with dark clouds that pressed down on the ground. Thunder rumbled in the dark clouds as if it wanted to destroy the entire world. The entire world was illuminated in bluish-white by the lightning. The expressions of Happy and the others changed drastically. Although they knew that this was caused by Brother Mo, it would be a lie to say that they weren't afraid in front of the violent power of nature. Tens of thousands of kilometers away, the blood locusts that covered the ground like a blood-red carpet were so shocked that they hurriedly hid in all directions, trying to find a gap to burrow into. At this moment, Mosher's mind moved again. Rumble, crack, jijij. In an instant, in the sky, countless huge lightning bolts that were hundreds of meters in diameter bombarded the ground. Boom, boom, boom. In just an instant, the world was filled with bluish-white light. Other than this bluish-white light, nothing else could be seen. Other than the roar of the lightning, nothing else could be heard. After more than half an hour, all of this finally disappeared. Even Imo was shocked by this terrifying momentum. It was the first time he had seen such a terrifying attack. Wait, the attack was clearly over. Why couldn't he see anything? He rubbed his eyes. Could he have seen wrongly? Happy, can you see anything? He turned his head and asked Happy. However, there was no trace of Happy. When he looked at Emma and her son again, they had long disappeared. It was not until a moment later that the bluish-white lightning completely disappeared. When the surroundings became chaotic, Imo finally understood. He was immediately embarrassed. F***ck, I accidentally blasted Happy, Emma, and the others into pieces. Chapter 573. Earth space was created by Imo by imitating Earth. Under the attack of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, the entire Earth had disappeared, and space once again fell into a primordial state of chaos. Could Happy and the others still be alive? Imo scratched his head awkwardly. But when he scratched his head, he couldn't touch it at all. He couldn't even reach out his hand. He tried again. F***ck, where did my body go? After a while, he realized that even his body had been destroyed by this attack. At this moment, he was only left with a ball of consciousness in space. Imo was so embarrassed that he wanted to cry. Not only did he kill himself by testing a skill, he even accidentally blasted his girlfriend into pieces. F***ck, no one else could do this. With a thought, his body recovered. With another thought, the entire Earth space was restored. All the flowers, trees, blue sky, and white clouds were the same as before. Emma, Happy, and the others still had extreme fear on their faces. Imo hurriedly arranged, "Don't worry, I was just testing my skill. You won't be in any danger in this space." It was only then that Emma and Happy relaxed. But at the same time they were speechless. His body was blasted into pieces by you, and you still say you're fine? At the same time, in the Lei family's patriarch's room, Lei Ming and the elders of the Lei family were all looking at the clansman. The two family was destroyed? Who did it? The clansman shook his head. I'm not sure. But from the looks of the scene, everyone from the two family must have disappeared in an extremely short period of time. Because there are no signs of fighting. It's as if everyone from the two family disappeared in an instant. Hiss. The elders all sucked in a breath of cold air. To be able to kill so many giant dragons in an instant, it must be at least a super-evolved giant dragon. Even super-evolved giant dragons would find it difficult to do so. Then could it be an ancient giant dragon? That's impossible. At this moment, a figure suddenly flashed in Lei Ming's mind. Could it be Senior Imo? Everyone shook their heads. Senior Imo is only a rank 4 super-evolved giant dragon. Of course, he's also very powerful, but it's still difficult for him to kill more than 300 giant dragons in an instant. Lei Ming shook his head. When I went to deliver food to Senior Imo this morning, I asked him to help. At that time he didn't say anything but suddenly disappeared. In less than a minute, he appeared before me again. Of course I found it strange, but I didn't dare to ask. Now that I think about it, could it be that Senior Imo went to the two clan and destroyed them in less than a minute? When he said this, some elders felt that it was possible. However, there was also an elder who said, but Mr. Imo is a rank 4 super-evolved dragon. It's impossible for him to do this, right? Lei Ming couldn't make up his mind either. After a while, an elder said, that's right. Patriarch, why don't you go and sound Senior Imo out? Another elder immediately objected, probing is absolutely not allowed. If you want to ask something, just ask directly. You can't beat around the bush in front of Senior Imo. If he angered Senior Imo, it would be detrimental to the Lei clan. Especially considering that Senior Imo might be the person who destroyed the two clan. Everyone quickly nodded. That's right. Patriarch, you have to ask him, but you have to ask him directly. Thunder nodded. Got it. Thus, he simply packed up and went to Imo's guest room again. However, when he arrived at the door, he saw that the door was wide open and Senior Imo wasn't inside. He didn't dare to use his dragon consciousness to check. He could only call the maid and ask, where is Senior Imo? The maid saw that the patriarch seemed to have something urgent and didn't dare to hesitate. He went to the backyard to play chess with the young master. Lei Ming hesitated for a moment, but still quickly walked to the backyard. If it was really Senior Mo, then they had to quickly thank him. Otherwise, if they were too slow, Senior Mo might be displeased. However, when he arrived at the backyard and saw Mo Shi and Lei Ming, he stopped in his tracks. Senior Mo didn't say anything because he didn't want to make this matter public. If he made a big fuss, would Senior Mo be even more displeased? Then wouldn't it be inappropriate for him to rashly ask around? For a moment, Lei Ming hesitated whether to go or not. At this moment, Mo Shi originally came to the backyard to play chess with Lei Ren. There was a type of chess in the 10,000 Dragon Pagoda called war chess. It was very similar to the Chinese chess on Earth. When the dragons had nothing to do, they would play war chess to pass the time. In the past few days, Mo Shi had been dragged by Lei Ming to play war chess. When he was on Earth, although his chess level wasn't high, no one in his class could beat him. Moreover, he had once won the second-class chess competition. Now, it was naturally no problem for him to play this profligate son. Mo Shi was very happy to play chess when he had nothing to do. However, when he came to the backyard today, Lei Ren was cultivating. After cultivating for a while, he saw Mo Shi arrive and immediately said, "Big brother Mo, you're here." Lei Ming didn't tell Lei Ren about Mo Shi's true identity. He thought that the reason why Mo Shi and Lei Ren got along well was because he liked Lei Ren's simplicity and lack of scheming. If he told Lei Ren, the two of them would probably no longer be able to get along as brothers. Mo Shi nodded and asked, "A profligate son like you also knows how to cultivate?" Lei Ren said, "Big brother Mo, don't say that. Don't look down on me. I got into the best academy on Cloud Sea planet, the Cloud Sea Academy. Even if you have money and power, you might not be able to get in. Only absolute geniuses can." Mo Shi nodded, Oh, then why do you look so miserable when you're cultivating? It's like I stole your wife." Lei Ren didn't laugh. Instead, he shook his head. "Sigh, big brother Mo, don't mention it. Ever since I became a rank 1 evolved dragon, I seem to have encountered a bottleneck in my cultivation. I also cultivated according to the method my old man taught me, but no matter how I cultivated, I didn't seem to make any progress." Hearing this, Mo Shi smiled. "Have you ever tried to change the lightning attribute energy to the Dragon Abyss acupoint instead of the 9 orifices during the second circulation?" Lei Ren shook his head. "My old man has never changed the direction of the Dragon Abyss acupoint. If I rashly change the path of the energy circulation, there's a high chance that I'll go berserk." Mo Shi smiled. "If you don't try, how do you know you'll go berserk? You might even break through on the spot." Hearing this, Lei Ren was slightly tempted. But he still shook his head. "Break through on the spot? Big brother Mo, you must be joking. I just broke through less than 20 years ago and I can break through again? Then wouldn't I be a genius among geniuses?" Then he said, "But, you said to change the path of the energy circulation. I think it shouldn't be a problem to try it out. Moreover, I have big brother Mo to protect me, so I won't go berserk." With that, he followed Mo Shi's instructions and started cultivating again. Chapter 574. Lei Ren followed Mo Shi's instructions and began to cultivate. Lei Ming's heart skipped a beat when he heard this from afar. Could the path of energy circulation be changed so easily? This was the cultivation method passed down by the Lei family's ancestors. There could not be any mistakes. Once he made a mistake, he might go crazy. He had cultivated this way back then. His father and grandfather had also cultivated in this way. Why did Senior Mo have to change it? But if he went over and asked him to stop now, would he offend Senior Mo? For a moment, Lei Ming was anxious, but he did not know what to do. He had always been calm, but now he was like an ant on a hot pan. At this time, the energy in Lei Ren's body had already completed 1 cycle. During the second cycle, according to Mo Shi's instructions, the energy did not go through the 9 aperture acupoints, but instead went through the Longyuan acupoint. After a full cycle, he suddenly felt much more normal. In the past, the energy circulation had always felt sluggish. But now it was like a river that had just been cleared, very smooth. But now that he was cultivating, he could not be distracted. During cultivation, the energy had to be circulated for 81 cycles before it could stop. So he continued to circulate the energy for the second cycle. Then the third, the fourth, the fifth. It seemed slow, but it was actually very fast to complete 1 cycle. Within a few seconds, the energy was able to complete 1 cycle. In fact, it only took him less than 5 minutes to complete the 81 cycles. Just as Lei Ren finished cultivating and was about to stop, he suddenly had a feeling. His whole body trembled slightly. In the next moment, streaks of lightning crawled up his body. These lightning bolts were not as large as the lightning bolts when Lei Long released his energy. Instead, they were like small snakes that kept climbing on Lei Ren's body. It seemed that Lei Ren could not control too much energy and it was leaking out. It was not until a moment later that the energy that leaked out slowly returned to his body. At this time, Lei Ren's aura was at least 5 times stronger than before. Lei Ren opened his eyes at this time and looked at himself in disbelief. I broke through? When he spoke, his tone was full of disbelief. One had to know that he had just broken through more than 20 years ago. Usually, a person who could break through in 100 years was already considered a genius dragon. However, he had advanced a level in just over 20 years. Wasn't he a genius among geniuses? Of course, although he was surprised, he was not confused. He knew that this was all thanks to Immortality. If he cultivated according to the previous method, it would take him at least 100 years to break through again. Now, with just a few pointers from Big Brother Immortality, he was able to achieve a breakthrough. When Lei Ming saw this scene from afar, he felt his body tremble slightly. With just a few words of guidance, he immediately broke through. This wasn't just too exaggerated, it was simply too exaggerated. Throughout history, no matter how powerful a giant dragon was, who would dare to say that they would be able to break through with just a few words of guidance? It never happened. What kind of mystical dragon was this senior Mo? Of course they didn't know. Even Mo himself didn't understand how he had suddenly become so proficient in cultivation. Actually, this was all because he had learned the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations. When he was on Earth, when he was learning the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformation skill, he also learned the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformation skill. Although he couldn't use it himself, there was no harm in having more skills. Who knows, it might come in handy in the future. And the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformation skill was a collection of Thunder attribute skills. It was a skill that was summed up from thousands of Thunder attribute skills. It was the most suitable skill for a Thunder Dragon to cultivate. After mastering this set of cultivation methods, he would be able to see the flaws in any cultivation method at a glance. At this moment, after Lei Ren broke through, he hurriedly got up and bowed solemnly to Immortality. Big Brother Mo, thank you. His words were full of sincerity. Immortality waved his hand and said, it doesn't matter. It's not even a slight effort. If you cultivate according to this method, I can guarantee that you will break through again within a year and break through to the 4th rank within 10 years. Within 100 years, you will break through to the 6th rank. Hearing this, Lei Ren's eyes were filled with gratitude. Big Brother Mo, I have nothing to repay you with. Why don't we go find a few girls to play with? My treat. Immortality. When Lei Ren heard Immortality's words from afar, he only felt that his entire worldview had been turned upside down. To be able to break through one rank within 100 years was already an absolute genius. But now, Senior Mo said that if he cultivated according to his method, he could break through to the 5th rank within 100 years. What kind of cultivation method was this? It was obviously a cheat. However, they did not know that Immortality actually had a trick up his sleeve. If Immortality directly taught Lei Ren the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations with Lei Ren's talent, it was estimated that within 100 years, he would be able to break through to the 10th rank and evolve into a giant dragon. Immortality's path had already been set by the dog system. He would definitely become the enemy of the entire 10,000 Dragon Star region in the future. Just now, he saw the power of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, so he would not teach Lei Ren all the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations to create a strong enemy for himself. That would not be fun. At this moment, Lei Ming no longer needed to ask Immortality whether he was the one who destroyed the two family. A single sentence of guidance could let Lei Ren break through immediately. If he was not the one who destroyed the Lei family, who else could it be? He directly strode in front of Immortality and bowed. Senior Mo, thank you for guiding my son's breakthrough. Our Lei family will never forget Senior Mo's great kindness. Immortality waved his hand, indicating that it was no big deal. Then he stretched out his hand and said, get up. However, Lei Ming did not immediately get up. He remained half kneeling on the ground and cupped his fist. Senior, I have a presumptuous request. Immortality had already guessed what he wanted to do, but he still asked, what is it? Lei Ming said, Senior Mo, after I reached the 10th rank, I have not been able to break through for 1,000 years. Please give me a few pointers. The difference between a 10th rank evolved dragon and a 1st rank super evolved dragon. It seemed like a difference of only 1 rank, but in reality the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. The difference in status in the 10,000 Dragon Star region was also like heaven and earth. A 10th rank evolved dragon could at most occupy a radius of 1,000 kilometers. However, a 1st rank super evolved dragon could occupy a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers, or even tens of millions of kilometers. Every super-evolved dragon could basically do whatever they wanted no matter where they went. Not to mention other things, just in the entire Cloud Mother region, there were only slightly more than 80 dragons that could reach the level of super-evolved dragon. Just from the number alone, it could be seen how high the status of super-evolved dragons was. Therefore, Lei Ming naturally wanted to ask Immortality for pointers. Chapter 575. Lei Ming begged Wang Yi for advice. After saying that, he was still a little nervous. Senior Mo was in his home, so he had to seize this opportunity. If he missed it, it would be the biggest regret of his life. But would Mr. Mo guide him? In Mr. Mo's eyes, he was just a small ant. Would a giant elephant waste its time for an ant? Lei Ren saw Lei Ming kneel down to Immortality and couldn't help but look as if he had seen a ghost. Hey Dad, you kneel down to my big brother Mo? What do you want me to do? Lei Ming glared at Lei Ren. Senior Mo has been so kind to our Lei family, but we have nothing to repay him. What's wrong with bowing to Mr. Mo? Immortality smiled faintly at this time and said, cultivate for a while and let me see. Lei Ming was overjoyed when he heard this. But soon he hurriedly calmed down and concentrated. He couldn't be distracted when cultivating. After taking a deep breath for a moment, his mood finally calmed down. Then he sat cross-legged on the stone bench next to him and cultivated for 81 cycles. Because he had been cultivating for thousands of years, his energy circulation speed was far faster than Lei Ren's. In a short span of 3 minutes, he had already cultivated 81 cycles. After Immortality finished reading, he nodded and said, when your energy is circulating in your chest, don't go through the long high acupoint, change it to the Lei gathering acupoint. Lei Ming was slightly puzzled. He and Lei Ren cultivated the same cultivation method. Why was the guidance now different from when he was watching Lei Ren? Immortality seemed to see his doubts and explained, every giant dragon has a different physique, different cell strength, different meridian strength, height, weight and other aspects. So the cultivation method can't be generalized. It must be different for each dragon. After hearing this, Lei Ming didn't dare to have any doubts. He immediately cultivated according to Immortality's method. After a while, he felt that the energy in his body was very smooth. When he cultivated normally, when the energy passed through his chest, he felt a little sluggish. But this time, there was no sluggishness. The energy obtained from one cultivation was actually more than the total energy obtained from hundreds of cultivation. Immortality continued. If you cultivate according to this method, you will be able to evolve into a super-evolved colossal dragon within 100 years. When Lei Ming heard this, he felt his body tremble. Advancing to super-evolution within 100 years. So fast. If Immortality knew about this, he would probably look down on him. Rising 1 level in 100 years was considered fast? If you knew that I advanced 4 levels in 6 days, wouldn't you be scared to death? Furthermore, Immortality had yet to impart the true Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations to him. Otherwise, he estimated that it would take him at most 10 years to become a super-evolved giant dragon. In the next few days, Lei Ming gathered the most talented clansmen of the Lei clan and had Immortality guide them. Those clansmen were basically all evolved dragons. There were level 1 and level 2, level 5 and level 7. After Immortality's guidance, he immediately broke through to the first order and second order. After a few days he broke through to the 5th stage. As for the 7th order ones, they also felt that they had benefited a lot. He estimated that he would be able to break through in a month. This greatly benefited the Lei clan. Thus, when the Lei clan took over all the 2 clans' assets, they gave all the dragon coins to Immortality. As a result, Immortality, who only had a few thousand dragon coins before, became a big shot with more than 10 million dragon coins. And this was because the 2 clan had too little cash. Otherwise he would have become a billionaire boss. However, Lei Ming promised him that in the future, the Long clan's net income from the 2 clan would be split with Immortality 30 to 70. Immortality would get 70%, while the Lei clan would get 30%. In this way, Immortality did not need to do anything and would have an annual income of over 10 million. The Lei clan only got 30%, which seemed very little. But one must know that without the 2 clan, the Lei clan was the largest power within a few thousand kilometers. Their businesses could expand rapidly, and the Lei clan's income could increase rapidly. Thus, the Lei clan actually received a lot of benefits. Immortality finally experienced the joy of becoming rich overnight. With 10 million in an instant, what should he do? If it were other giant dragons with this 10 million, they would probably buy a lot of cultivation resources. Things like evolution agents, cell strengthening fluids, etc. But Immortality did not need these at all. He had nowhere to spend this 10 million. As for indulging in debauchery, what a joke, how long would it take to spend all this 10 million? Moreover, the Lei clan would give him 70% of the two clans' assets every month. Thus, no matter how much money he spent, he would not be able to spend it all. How annoying. At the same time, the Dragon Palace's upgrade was completed. After the upgrade, the Dragon Palace had 100 dragon refining platforms. In other words, every 10 days the Dragon Palace would have 100 more giant dragons. This was an exaggerated number. And Mo Sure was also investigating the situation around these few days. He did not need to investigate the two clans' situation. The Lei clan would naturally take care of it from top to bottom and clean it up. No one would be able to trace it back to him. And for such a power there would be one less to destroy. If there was no special pressure, the government would be too lazy to investigate. Mo Sure's focus was on the laboratory. So many people in the laboratory were killed, it would definitely attract attention. As expected, under his investigation, 3 groups of investigation teams had already entered the laboratory. They even sent people to investigate the flaming continent. In the end, they did not find anything. After all, Mo Sure did a very clean job at that time. In the end, the government could only seal the laboratory. As for when it would be opened again, that was not certain. Maybe a month, 3 months, a year. Maybe it would never be opened again. As for the creatures on the flaming continent, they would be left to fend for themselves. After hearing this, Mo Sure was relieved. A month later, Lei Ren would go to the Mica Academy. Mo Sure also planned to go there, to see if there was a chance to increase his strength again. Actually, if he was more violent, he could go on a killing spree, then his strength would increase rapidly. But who knew if there were some old monsters on the Mica planet that were tens of thousands of years old or even hundreds of thousands of years old? It would not be good if he was controlled at any time. Thus, he would find a chance to slowly increase his strength. For example, if there was a war, he could directly participate. Or if there was a dragon plague outbreak, he could also participate. Wouldn't that be great? And now he planned to go to the Mica Academy with Lei Ren to find such an opportunity. At the same time, on the flaming continent, on the first hunting island, everyone was in shock. On this day, in the workshop where the refining platforms were, there were originally 10 refining platforms, but suddenly, there were 90 more. The total number reached 100. Chapter 576. On the first hunting island of the flaming continent. On this day, Guojutao selected 10 people and planned to bring them to the refining platform. These 10 people were very excited. They had been waiting for so many days, and now they finally had the chance to become a Grand Desolate Master. However, when they opened the door of the workshop where the refining platform was, Guojutao suddenly stopped in his tracks. Everyone stopped in their tracks as well. The workshop did not have the same 10 refining platforms as before, but there were many more. Everyone was stunned for a moment. What was going on? Guojutao was also confused. Logically speaking, the appearance of the refining platforms should have something to do with Mr. Mo. However, Mr. Mo had been gone for many days, and now there were so many refining platforms here. This was inconceivable. Not only did the number of refining platforms change, but the appearance of the refining platforms also changed greatly. In the past, the refining platform was very simple. It was a round platform about a foot tall, and Guang Rong would sit cross-legged on it to cultivate. But now, each of the refining tables had a diameter of 1 meter, which was much wider than before. They were also 1 meter tall. Around each refining stage, there were many mysterious and profound talisman scripts. Just one look was enough to make one feel that it was unbelievable. Among these runes, there were also some pictures that looked like giant dragons. Guojutao ordered his men to check all of the refining tables that had undergone changes. There were a total of 100 refining platforms. Then he called a few of the higher-ups of the base and the monk to study the refining platforms together. However, no matter how much they researched, they still couldn't come up with anything. In the end, the small monk said, "Damn it. Who cares? Let's just go up and refine it." However, the sudden appearance of the refining platforms made them feel uneasy. Who would be the first guinea pig? The monk shook his head helplessly. What's there to be afraid of? This must be Mr. Mo's doing. Don't worry, there won't be any harm. If you don't believe me, I'll be your guinea pig. Then he ignored Guojutao's attempts to stop him and jumped onto the refining platform. He nodded and said, "Yes, it's more spacious than the previous one. It's more comfortable." Then he sat on it and closed his eyes. No one knew if he was cultivating or resting. When the crowd saw this, they no longer tried to persuade him. Moreover, Everyone was more inclined to believe that Mr. Mo was the culprit. Therefore he wasn't that worried. For the next 10 days, Guojutao paid close attention to the monk's movements. Fortunately, in these 10 days the monk looked the same as the others who had stepped onto the refining stage. There were no changes. 10 days later, Guojutao personally came to the refining platform. He looked at the multifunctional watch on his wrist. There was only 1 minute left. He was slightly worried. He didn't know if this new refining stage would make people stronger or if it would have some negative effects. Furthermore, the monk had already stepped onto the desolate refining platform once before and was already a grand desolate master. He didn't know what would happen in the next 10 days. However, in his opinion, this new refining platform must have been created by Mo Sure. Therefore, even if there was an impact, it would definitely be a positive one. However, at this moment he suddenly realized that something was wrong. An extremely powerful aura suddenly spread out from the monk's body. This powerful aura even sent Guojutao flying more than 50 meters away. Guojutao was shocked and was about to call for help. At this moment, crack crack crack, the crisp sound of bones breaking came from the monk's body. Guojutao exclaimed, "Monk, come down quickly." However, it was too late. The monk's body suddenly underwent a huge change. His arms quickly lengthened and a pair of wings grew out from his back. A tail grew out from his back. At the same time his body rapidly expanded. 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. As his body continued to expand, the walls and the roof of the entire workshop quickly burst. Fortunately, Guojutao dodged quickly. Otherwise he would have been injured. At this moment, he looked up from the roof of the workshop that had been blown open. He saw that it was actually a giant dragon. The monk had turned into a giant dragon. Roar! The giant dragon roared towards the sky. Everyone in the base was horrified. They hurriedly came out and looked up at the giant dragon that had already rushed into the sky. Roar! Roar! Dragon roars continuously came out from the giant dragon's mouth. Everyone was greatly shaken. After a full 5 minutes, the giant dragon descended from the sky. Everyone couldn't help but retreat. Those who were timid were so scared that their legs went soft and they directly sat on the ground. A moment later, the giant dragon retracted its wings and said in a human voice, "F***ck, I turned back into a human? Hey, who knows how I turned back into a human? This is urgent." Waiting online. Everyone recognized the voice when they heard it. It was obviously the monk's voice. How did the monk turn into a giant dragon? Guojutao also reacted. This is the effect of the refining stage. While they were talking, the giant dragon's body rapidly changed. Then a red-skinned monk appeared in front of everyone. F***ck. The monk hurriedly covered his face with both hands. F***ck, someone reminded him, "Shouldn't you cover your lower body?" The monk braced himself. "If I cover my lower body, won't you see my face? But if you cover your face, won't we see your lower body? And if you cover your face, won't we know it's you? Your big head is brighter than a light bulb." Guojutao reacted quickly. He hurriedly took off his coat and threw it to the monk. The monk tied the coat around his waist and immediately straightened his back. It was as if what just happened didn't happen at all. This guy's skin was really thick. He looked at his arms and body and asked Guojutao next to him, "Did you see it? A giant dragon." Guojutao was a little confused and nodded. "Yes, a giant dragon." The monk scratched his shiny head. "Why the F***ck did I suddenly become a giant dragon?" Guojutao said. "Maybe it's the refining stage." The monk nodded. "That makes sense." Everyone around them was shocked and envious at the same time. The monk turned into a giant dragon. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. That night, Guojutao discussed with a few higher-ups in the base. First, they conducted a poll to see how many people were willing to become a giant dragon. In the end, almost everyone was willing. After all, giant dragons were not only powerful but also had a long life. Now that there was a chance to become a giant dragon, how could they refuse? Therefore, Guojutao and a group of higher-ups designed a selection process. Every 10 days, 100 people would be selected to go to the refining stage. In just 10 days there would be 100 more giant dragons in the base. Chapter 577. The people of the Flaming Continent had worshipped dragons for tens of thousands of years. But now more than 10 dragons had appeared in the base in just 10 days, which shocked everyone. Of course, the base was in the Dragon Palace. As long as they didn't fly out of the Dragon Palace, the people outside wouldn't be able to investigate the situation inside. Even if the investigation team came, as long as they didn't fly into the Dragon Palace, they wouldn't know that this experimental planet had started producing dragons. Although these dragons were only the most ordinary rank 1 dragons. But from humans to dragons, this was already a qualitative change. As long as the Dragon Palace continued to upgrade, the level of dragons it could produce would be higher and higher. Myriad Dragon Star Region, Cloud Sea Star. Today was the day Lei Ren went to the Cloud Sea Academy. The Lei family immediately became busy. Madame Lei asked Lei Ming to bring a lot of food and clothes for Lei Ren. Other than that, the most important thing was to bring a total of 10 bodyguards for Lei Ren. Among these 10 people, one was a rank 8 evolved dragon, while the rest were rank 6 to 7. This was really extravagant. Lei Ming didn't want to bring so many people. After all, once these people left, a third of the Lei family's high-end combat power would be taken away. But he couldn't persuade Madame Lei, so he could only bring them along. At this time, Mosher also bid farewell to Lei Ming and said, "Brother Lei is going to the Cloud Sea Academy, and I happen to be going to the Cloud Sea City. I'll go take a look." Lei Ming was overjoyed when he saw this. With Mosher taking care of him, Lei Ren didn't need to bring so many followers to the Cloud Sea Academy. He didn't even need to bring a single one. Senior Mo alone is equivalent to an army of thousands of men and horses. Mosher also said, "Actually, Lei Ren has grown up and he should be independent. You can take care of him for now, but can you take care of him forever? Sooner or later he will have to face some people and some things alone." But although Mosher said so, Madame Lei still didn't feel at ease. She had already asked people to find a place to stay in the Cloud Sea City in advance. She said that Senior Mo could stay there after going to the Cloud Sea City. At the same time, there were also some Lei family members and connections there. "If you need anything, Senior Mo can just let me know." Mosher couldn't be bothered to say anything more. That afternoon he went to the Cloud Sea City with Lei Ren. Because Mosher was there, Lei Ming didn't send anyone else to escort them. Just the two of them rushed all the way to the city. Mosher did not use teleportation, nor did he use his lightning-attributed energy to fly. After all, he wasn't in a hurry. The two of them rode the mechanical flying beast that Lei Ming had given them and flew all the way to Ocean of Cloud City. This type of mechanical flying beast looked like a bird. There was a thruster under him. It could flap its wings like a real bird. Mosher sighed inwardly when he saw this. It was an ornithopter. In the past, on Earth, someone had proposed the idea of an ornithopter. However, due to many technical problems, the ornithopter had never been realized. Even though there were models of ornithopters on the Flaming Origin continent, they had yet to realize manned flight. At most, it would be an ornithopter spraying pesticide. He did not expect that the ornithopter had already become a reality in the 10,000 Dragon Star area. However, the appearance of the ornithopter here did not have that kind of cool technological feel. Instead, it was made up of parts and gears that could be seen with the naked eye. It gave off a mechanical feeling that was visible to the naked eye. It was similar to the style of steampunk. This type of ornithopter did not fly very fast. However, the advantage was that it was much more agile than ordinary aircraft. It flew and flipped. It flew horizontally to the left and right. It hovered in the air. It could do almost anything that a bird could do. They rode the ornithopter and flew over a few cities before arriving above a forest. Mosher scanned with his dragon will and discovered that there were many star beast cubs in the forest. The so-called star beasts were those beasts that could survive in space. After these beasts grew up, they were extremely powerful. There were even beasts that were so big that they could devour planets. They were called star beasts. However, although these star beasts were powerful, their cubs could not survive in space at all. Therefore, they had to give birth to their cubs on some life planets. If these cubs were lucky, they would grow up to become real star beasts in the future. If they were unlucky, they would die halfway. In order to let their descendants gain experience, the giant dragons would not kill all of these star beast cubs. Instead, they would deliberately leave some for the low-level giant dragons to practice on. If the giant dragons killed too many star beast cubs, then the adult star beasts would cause trouble everywhere. If the adult star beasts went overboard, the giant dragons would kill a large number of star beast cubs. In this way, a delicate balance was maintained between the giant dragons and the star beasts. Because Lei Ren was spoiled by his mother, he had never come to the wild to hunt star beast cubs. Moreover, he had just become a rank 2 evolved giant dragon. Seeing that there were star beast cubs below, he could not help but be eager to try. Mosher did not mind. Since they were not in a hurry, he would play with him. After the ornithopter landed, Lei Ren could not wait to jump off. Mosher jumped onto a nearby mountain and admired the scenery here. Star beast cubs were also divided into different grades. The lowest grade was a 10-year cub. Actually, it was just hatched and ranged from 1 to 10 years old. Then, it was a 20-year cub. Actually, it was a 10 to 20-year cub. 10 to 100-year cub corresponded to rank 1 to rank 10 of the giant dragons. Then, 110-year cub corresponded to rank 1 of the giant dragons. And so on and so forth. Lei Ren asked Emo, "Sure, Big Brother Emo, if it were me, I would choose a 120-year cub, right?" Emo sure shook his head. "In the end, you still chose a 100-year cub." Lei Ren shook his head. "Big Brother Emo, you are underestimating me. Rank 1 corresponds to 10 years. As a rank 2 evolved giant dragon, it should correspond to 120 years. You just wait and see." Emo sure did not say much. This young man had never suffered before. Let him suffer more and learn from his mistakes. At this moment, Lei Ren took out a detector from the chip's space. This detector was specially used to detect star beast cubs within a radius of 10 kilometers. Not only could it show the location of the star beast cubs, it could also show the number and grade of the cubs. Very quickly, he confirmed that it was a 120-year cub that was alone. Then with a few leaps he arrived in front of the cub. It was a cub that looked like a crocodile. However, its body was more than 100 meters long. The scales on its back were triangular. At the end of its tail was a spiked hammer. Its pair of fangs looked very valiant. Seeing this, Lei Ren opened his mouth and let out a dragon's roar. However, the cub was not afraid of the dragon's roar like other creatures. When it saw Lei Ren blocking in front of it, it was furious. It also let out a hoarse but ear-piercing sound from its throat. Chapter 578. The star beast cub in front of him was called the star hammer beast. Although it was only 100 meters long, if it really grew into a star beast, it could grow to millions or even tens of millions of kilometers long. The hammerhead on its tail was even more powerful. It could easily destroy a planet with one hammer. Even though the one in front of him was only 120 years old and was equivalent to a rank 2 evolved dragon. In terms of strength, it had already surpassed a rank 2 evolved dragon. It was even possible to challenge a rank 3 evolved dragon. Although Lei Ren was already a rank 2 evolved dragon, he had only just advanced. In addition, his mother had spoiled him since he was young, so he had almost never really experienced it. Those who practiced with him on a daily basis also gave in to Lei Ren. This made Lei Ren feel that his strength had far surpassed his peers. That was why he made the absurd decision to challenge a 120-year-old star beast cub alone. If the servants sent by Lei Ming were here, they would definitely coax him. They would secretly help him kill this 120-year-old star beast cub. If that was the case, Lei Ren could forget about learning anything in his life. Emo sure felt that this guy was simple-minded and wanted to teach him. At this moment, Lei Ren was facing the star hammer beast cub. Lightning energy condensed in his right arm. It directly blasted towards the star hammer beast cub. Swish, swish, swish. The star hammer beast cub's body was suddenly covered with lightning. However, not only did it not hurt it, but it also angered it even more. Roar, 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 roar. It opened its huge mouth and made a strange hiss from its throat. Then it shook off its 4 claws and rushed towards Lei Ren. It was stuck to the ground like a crocodile. But when it really ran, its 4 claws were like the pedals of a bicycle, swinging extremely happily. It was extremely fast. Within a few seconds, it was less than 20 meters away from Lei Ren. In the next moment it suddenly braked, and the hammerhead behind it used the huge inertia to fly over its head. It directly smashed towards Lei Ren. Its speed and momentum shocked Lei Ming. He quickly dodged to the side. Rumble, this hammer smashed into the ground. It directly smashed a huge pit with a diameter of more than 20 meters. At the same time, large cracks began to appear around the crater. Lei Ren was careless and directly fell into a crack. Fortunately, he could fly, so he quickly flew up. But just as he flew up, the huge hammer smashed down again. He was shocked. He hurriedly used his lightning-attributed speed to escape. However, the star hammer beast didn't care about him. It just kept smashing the hammer on its tail. It was very adept at using the hammer. Smash wherever he pointed. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. The giant hammer with a diameter of more than 10 meters smashed into Lei Ren's shoulder. Crack! Lei Ren's shoulder collapsed. His whole body was knocked away by a huge force. He flew for over 100 meters before crashing into a cliff. Rumble, the cliff behind him was instantly torn apart. It turned into hundreds and thousands of pieces of stone that rumbled down. Lei Ren was completely buried. Only now did the star hammer beast seem to have vented its anger. He let out a victorious roar from his throat and returned to the capital. At the same time, in the hidden Dragon City's city lord's mansion that was thousands of kilometers away, Lei Ming and his wife were watching this scene through the air screen. They didn't intend to monitor Immortality. Lei Ming didn't have the guts. On many planets in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, there were security monitoring systems that were responsible for monitoring the entire planet. This security monitoring system, like a satellite, could monitor any situation on the planet's surface from a low Earth orbit. As Madame Lei was really worried about her son, she asked Lei Ming to think of a way. Lei Ming could only ask his old comrade, the current head of the Planetary Defense Department, to get the real-time surveillance footage of his son. Then he saw this torturous and heart-wrenching scene. It was torturous to their son's body and their hearts. Madame Lei's eyes were filled with tears. "No, I have to find my son. You have to send someone to find my son with me. Otherwise my son will definitely die there." Lei Ming hurriedly pulled his wife back. "Madam, we dragons have extremely strong self-healing abilities. It won't take long for him to recover from such a small injury. Since we have already asked Senior Mo to find our son, if we send someone else, wouldn't it mean that we don't trust Senior Mo? I'm afraid it will cause Senior Mo to be dissatisfied." Madame Lei was furious when she heard this. "Senior Mo, look at him. Our son has been beaten to such a state, and he is still sitting on the mountaintop watching the show. He even said that he is our son's brother. Is there a big brother like him?" Lei Ming hurriedly covered his wife's mouth. He said, "Madam, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. If Senior Mo hears this, our Lei family will probably be annihilated. It's not like you don't know how the Tu family was annihilated. In the time it took to say a few words, in less than 5 minutes, all 321 members of the Tu family suddenly disappeared. You still dare to say that?" Madame Lei also realized the seriousness of the matter. Her expression changed slightly and she hurriedly kept quiet. Then she turned to blame Lei Ming. "It's all your fault. I said I would send a few clansmen to protect our son, but you refused. What about now?" Lei Ming shook his head and said, "Actually, I feel that Mr. Mo is tempering our son." "Tempering? That's right. In the past, because of our doting on our son has never really been tempered. You have to know that the outside world is far crueler than imagined. If our son hasn't been tempered, how will he face this cruel world alone in the future? Mr. Mo has seen this point, so he is using this opportunity to accompany our son to Cloud Sea Academy to let our son gain some experience. This way, when our son arrives at the academy, he won't be ignorant and won't be mocked by the other students." Madame Lei heard this and nodded. But then she said, "That's true, but seeing our son suffer, I don't feel good in my heart." Lei Ming nodded. "I know. But even if it's not good, we have to bear with it. Otherwise, when our son faces the world alone in the future and suffers, it will be a huge loss. Although he is called a hedonistic son, he hasn't experienced much and is too naive. It's too easy for him to be taken advantage of." Madame Lei nodded again. "Yes, I understand." At the same time in the forest, under the cliff of the mountain that Immortality was sitting on. More than 10 minutes later, the pile of rocks flew away with a crashing sound. Lei Ming's figure climbed out from it. At this moment he was no longer the elegant young master he used to be. Instead he was in a very sorry state. His left shoulder had caved in, and a large piece of the clothes on his shoulder had been torn off. The current him didn't have the appearance of the number one hedonistic son within 1,000 miles. Chapter 579. Lei Ren crawled out from the pile of rocks in a sorry state. Even his shoulder had sunk in. Not only was he in a sorry state, he was in a miserable state. His left shoulder drooped as he looked at Immortality with a bitter face. He was angry and wronged. "Brother Imo, I want to kill the hammering star beast. Come with me now, I want to take revenge." Immortality shrugged. "Go ahead if you want to take revenge, what does it have to do with me?" Lei Ren said angrily, "If that guy doesn't die, I won't be able to vent my anger. But that guy is too strong, I can't win against him. So Brother Imo, please help me, I must kill him today." At the end of his sentence he was almost shouting. His eyes were bloodshot. Immortality laughed. "Do you have to find someone to stand up for you every time you get bullied?" Lei Ren raised his head. "In Hidden Dragon City my father is the boss and I'm the second boss. Who dares to bully me?" Immortality nodded. "Then let's put it another way, do you have to stand up for your servants every time you bully someone?" Lei Ren thought for a while and said, "Sometimes the servants don't even need to do anything. When I go over, those guys will beg for mercy." Immortality laughed. That's because they are afraid of your father and the power of the Lei family. What if we get rid of the servants, your father, and the entire Lei family? What else do you have? What else do you have? Lei Ren was stunned. The anger in his heart immediately disappeared. He had never thought about this before. He had always thought that everyone was afraid of him. If he wanted something, as long as he gave the order, everyone would rush to do it, afraid that they would be late. If he wanted to beat someone up, as long as he gave the order, everyone would help him beat them up. Sometimes, that person would even kneel in front of him and let him beat them up. They didn't dare to fight back. But now, when Immortality raised this question, he thought of something for the first time. But after all, he had never thought about this before, so what he could think of was very shallow. Immortality laughed coldly. You can't even defeat a hammerhead beast cub of the same level, what else can you do? Once you go to the Ocean of Clouds Academy, your father won't be there to protect you, and everyone there is a genius there. All of them had power and background. Who would spoil you like your parents? I'm afraid he'll be beaten to death in less than a month. When Lei Ren heard this, his face darkened. Wang Yi sighed again. No one can grow up under their parents' wings. One day you will have to go out and face the world on your own. This world is 100 times crueler than anything you've ever seen. If you don't have sufficient strength, you won't be able to go far. Lei Ren's face darkened. After a long time he raised his head and asked, Big brother then, what should I do? After all, he was just like a baby who had just come out of swaddling clothes. He had no knowledge of the world at all. Now that he was suddenly reminded by Immortality, there was only fear and panic. Naturally, he didn't have any ideas. Immortality shook his head and said, Don't worry. Go challenge the 100-year-old star beast cubs first. When your strength increases, come and challenge the hammering star beast cubs. Lei Ren said. But I'm afraid that will delay the start of the school. Immortality smiled. With your current strength, even if you make it in time for the start of the school, won't you be tortured everywhere? Why don't you get tortured enough here? When your strength increases, you can go to the academy to torture others. Wouldn't that be better? When Lei Ren heard this, his eyes lit up. Then he took out the star beast detector and scanned again. He found a 100-year-old star beast, the carrying star beast cubs. The carrying star beast cubs were more than 80 meters long. They wriggled on the ground like a snail. At the same time, there was a boulder-like protrusion on its back. However, this protrusion was hollow. When it encountered a powerful enemy, its body would shrink into the boulder on its back and lie on the ground, pretending to be a boulder. When it grew into a real giant star beast, the protrusion on its back would completely grow into the shape of a planet. When it encountered a powerful giant star beast, it would shrink into the shell on its back and pretend to be a planet. This kind of star beast was weak in offense but strong in defense. It was suitable for Lei Ren to practice. Lei Ren jumped in front of the carrying star beast cubs. Seeing this, the carrying star beast cubs ignored him. It turned around and wriggled in the other direction. Wherever it passed, it would leave behind an oily trail. Lei Ren condensed lightning and threw it at the carrying star beast. Buzz buzz buzz, the carrying star beast's body was instantly covered with lightning. At the same time, some black smoke was emitted. A burnt smell spread out along with the black smoke. It was very unpleasant. However, this only made the carrying star beast cubs shrink their antennae. The next moment, it opened its mouth. The tongue in its mouth was like lightning. It wrapped around Lei Ren and rolled into his mouth. The moment it opened its mouth, Immortality saw that its mouth was filled with triangular teeth. There was also a circle of teeth in its upper and lower palate and throat. If he was swallowed, he would be minced into meat paste in minutes. He couldn't help but be surprised. On the surface, this kind of star beast didn't seem to be aggressive. It was like a snail waiting to be slaughtered. He didn't expect it to have countless small saw teeth in its mouth. This guy's level was 2 levels lower than the carrying star beast. However, in terms of danger, it was much higher than the carrying star beast cubs. After all, no matter how powerful the carrying star beast was, it could at most beat Lei Ren up. Broken bones, arms and legs were nothing to a giant dragon. It wouldn't take long for them to recover. However, if he was swallowed by this guy, he would be minced into meat paste in minutes. Even with the self-healing ability of the giant dragons, it was impossible for them to revive after being minced into meat paste. When Immortality saw this, he didn't immediately take action. He wanted to see Lei Ren's ability to react on the spot. If this guy's ability to react was too weak, then there was really no need to spend so much effort to nurture him. In the Hidden Dragon City. When Madame Lei saw this scene, she instantly exclaimed, Ren. However, Lei Ming knew that Immortality wouldn't just watch his son get swallowed. Finally, when Lei Ren was about to be swallowed, Immortality moved. With a thought, he directly used energy to move a huge rock from the side. He threw it into the carrying star beast cub's mouth. Crack, 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 crack. That huge rock was more than 10 meters tall. However, when it was thrown into the carrying star beast's mouth, it was like being thrown into a stone crusher. It was quickly crushed into pieces by the teeth in its mouth. Immortality's heart skipped a beat. Good job. If it was allowed to grow, even a planet wouldn't be enough for it to swallow. Fortunately, with this block, its tongue also let go of Lei Ren and retracted. Lei Ren crawled up in a sorry state and hurriedly jumped away. In the hidden Dragon City's city lord's residence. When Madame Lei saw this, she heaved a sigh of relief. She clutched her chest. That scared me to death. Lei Ming also heaved a sigh of relief. I said that Senior Imo wouldn't just sit by and watch. Chapter 580. Lei Ren was saved by Immortality. He watched as the infant planet-carrying beast ate the stone like it was eating beans. Crunch, crunch, crunch. He furrowed his brows and released lightning energy at the baby planet-carrying beast again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Once again the young planet-carrying beast's skin started smoking due to the lightning. But this made it even angrier. It opened its mouth and its tongue shot out like lightning. It wrapped around Lei Ren again and pulled him into its mouth. Lei Ren seemed to be prepared for this. Lightning flashed all over his body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Smoke came out of the planet carrier beast's tongue. It let go of Lei Ren and shrank back. Seeing this, Immortality nodded to himself. This brat still had some comprehension ability. Then Lei Ren fought with the baby planet carrier beast, which was 2 levels lower than him, for 2 hours. In the end, no one could subdue the other. The baby planet carrier beast saw how powerful Lei Ren's lightning was and immediately drilled into its stone-like shell. In this way, Lei Ren couldn't do anything to it. Immortality saw that Lei Ren kept releasing lightning, but the baby planet carrier beast didn't care at all. He shook his head helplessly. Do you only know how to release lightning? Don't you have any other skills? Lei Ren turned around and said while panting, it's hard to condense lightning energy. Our lightning-attributed lightning is very difficult to condense. Unlike other types of energy that can be condensed into blades, swords, light pillars and light blades, we of the Lei family fight directly with our energy. Immortality shook his head helplessly. This guy's combat experience was too lacking. He said, try to condense a dragon claw. Lei Ren nodded. Soon, his entire right arm turned into a 3-meter-long dragon claw. The blue-black scales on it looked very cool. Immortality said, try to attach the energy to the dragon claw. Don't release it. Lei Ren nodded again and attached the energy to the dragon claw. At first, it was hard to control. The energy would be released if he wasn't careful. After all, lightning energy was very unstable. It wasn't as easy to control as other energies. But after trying for more than 2 hours, he finally managed to attach the energy to the dragon claw. During these 2 hours, he wanted to give up many times. Immortality only said one thing. Do you want to go from the number 1 hedonist to the number 1 joke? Although this guy was a hedonistic son of a rich family, his pride was still quite strong. After being provoked by Immortality, he immediately shook his head. No, I won't be a joke. Even if I go to Ocean of Clouds Academy, I'll still be ranked at the top amongst the new students. When Lei Ming saw his son's words on the screen, his eyes lit up. For so many years, his son had always been the number 1 silk pants in the area. He had thought of many ways to change the situation, but first, his wife was always obstructing him, and second, his son did not seem to want to change at all. Who would have thought that he would say something like that today? He knew self-respect. And all of this was because of the changes Immortality had brought to his son. Madame Lei couldn't bear to see her son suffer. But while he couldn't bear it, he was also secretly grateful to Immortality. If his son was still by his side, he would probably be a good-for-nothing for the rest of his life. At the scene. When Lei Ren added energy to his dragon claws and stabbed at the stone on the back of the planet-carrying beast that even swords couldn't cut open. Swish, swish, swish. After a few soft sounds, the stone-like shell on the back of the planet-carrying beast was instantly pierced through. Roar, hiss, the planet-carrying beast was instantly in pain and anger. Its upper body suddenly popped out of its shell and shot towards Lei Ren. No one expected that apart from its tongue, its head could also shoot out more than 10 meters. At the same time, it opened its huge mouth full of triangular teeth and tried to swallow Lei Ren. Lei Ren hurriedly raised his claws to block in front of him. But the planet-carrying beast's tongue shot out again, went around the huge claws and wrapped around Lei Ren. It quickly pulled Lei Ren towards its mouth. And because it was too close, it almost instantly pulled Lei Ren to its mouth. At this moment, Lei Ren finally released his lightning. Swish, 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 the planet-carrying beast's body trembled. Lei Ren took the opportunity to cut off the planet-carrying beast's tongue with his sharp claws. Swish, swish, swish. Amidst the sparks, the planet-carrying beast's tongue was instantly cut off. Lei Ren pinched off half of the tongue, and the 3-meter-long sharp claws on his right arm slashed towards the planet-carrying beast. The planet-carrying beast hurriedly retracted its upper body and shrank back into its shell. At the same time, the whole shell started to roll. Who knew how it did it? It was like a rock rolling down a hill, quickly rolling into the distance. Lei Ren was still in shock. Looking at his sharp claws, his face was a little pale. That was close. He would have been minced into meat paste just now. At this moment, Mo smiled and said, "This kind of fighting method is very harmful to the enemy. But at the same time, because it's close combat and extremely dangerous, you have to learn to be very flexible and able to adapt to the situation." After a while, Lei Ren finally came back to his senses. He nodded and said, "I will." Mo continued, "I know that after a giant dragon transforms into its true form, its fighting method is to directly use its claws and fangs. Because the giant dragon's body is very strong, many giant dragons don't care about energy. And after transforming into a giant dragon, it's not easy to control energy, so it's very difficult to attach energy to the claws and fangs. But if you can attach energy to any part of your body through continuous practice, then your fighting power will increase by 100 times. With that, Mo's right arm turned into a dragon claw. Lightning energy was attached to the dragon claw. Then his left arm turned into a dragon claw, and the energy was still attached to the dragon claw. Left leg, right leg, and even the tail behind him. His energy could be attached to any part of his body as he wished. This made Lei Ren feel envious. When would he be able to train to such a level? But while he was envious, he also secretly made up his mind to train to such a level. At the same time, Lei Ren saw this scene and was also quite surprised. He knew that when giant dragons transformed into human form, they could attach energy to any part of their body. But when transforming into a giant dragon, he had never seen a giant dragon do this. Could it be that Senior Mo could do it? If that was the case, then his fighting power would increase by 100 times. After another 3 days, Lei Ren was finally able to attach energy to any part of his body in his human form. And his fighting power had also increased greatly. When facing a planet-carrying beast, he could kill it in one hit. After killing more than 10 planet-carrying beast cubs in one go, he turned around and asked Mo, "Brother Mo, how is it?" Mo raised his head to look at the setting sun on the horizon, pretending not to hear anything. Chapter 581. "Brother Mo, how is it?" Lei Ren asked. Mo acted as if he didn't hear anything as he looked at the setting sun. Lei Ren understood that he was still far from Brother Mo's requirements. Of course not. One must know that Mo had been challenging those of a higher level all the way. At his peak, he had even challenged those of a higher level. Now, this guy had only defeated a creature that was 2 levels lower than him, and he was already feeling complacent? This was the difference between dragons. Next, Mo let Lei Ren challenge a 110-year star beast cub. In the beginning, Lei Ren was still flattered. But later on, Lei Ren completely grasped the method of attaching energy to any part of his body. Only then did he defeat that star beast cub. Next, he challenged 2, 3, 5, a group. After 5 days, he was finally able to challenge a group of 110-year star beast cub. Next, he challenged a 120-year star beast cub. This time, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't defeat that star hammer beast cub. Not only was the star hammer beast invincible in attack, but its defense was also extremely strong and its speed was also very fast. If Lei Ren really wanted to defeat the star hammer beast, there was only one way: transform into a giant dragon. This was the magic weapon of all giant dragons. After transforming into a giant dragon, their fighting power would be completely unleashed. Their claws would be sharper and their defense would be stronger. Their fighting power would increase by at least 10 times. But Mo said to Lei Ren, who was about to transform, "You haven't fully unleashed the power of your human body. You haven't fully unleashed the power of the lightning attribute energy." Lei Ren was a little confused. "I feel that I have already used my human body to the limit. Even if I were to face a rank 3 evolved giant dragon, I would still be able to fight." Mo smiled. In his right hand, a bolt of lightning was condensed. Then, with a thought, the lightning quickly condensed into a ball shape. Then it condensed into a blade shape, a whip shape, a sword shape, and even a bow shape. This scene made Lei Ren's eyes almost pop out. At the same time, Lei Ming, who was watching this scene in front of the screen, also had his eyes almost fall out. Since ancient times, the lightning attribute energy had been extremely unstable. To be able to release it towards the target without deviation, one had to go through continuous practice. But now, Senior Mo was able to condense the energy into various shapes. This completely subverted their understanding of lightning attribute energy. At this moment, Mo Shi made another shocking move. His right hand condensed a ball of thunder attribute energy. Then, the lightning attribute energy actually condensed into a lightning dragon in the sky. The lightning dragon continued to fly and flicker in the sky, making crackling sounds. Even the clouds in the sky were slightly stirred up. In the next moment he swung his right hand down. The 100-meter-long dragon in the sky immediately descended towards a mountain. Crack. Rumble, the mountaintop exploded. 1,000 meters of the 5,000-meter-tall mountain was blown away. The flying rocks scattered in all directions, smashing and breaking the trees in the surrounding forest. Those baby star beasts were so frightened that they scattered in all directions. As for the group of starhammer beast cubs on the mountain top, they were all killed by the lightning dragon. One fell right in front of Lei Ren's feet. Lei Ren looked at the starhammer beast cub that had countless cracks on its scales. He was so shocked that he was tongue-tied. Lei Ming also looked at this scene in disbelief. He knew that Senior Mo's strength was unfathomable. But the move just now did not use a lot of energy. Just that little bit of energy was able to produce such a huge power. This was really shocking. How did he do it? At the scene, Mo Shi said to Lei Ren, who was dumbstruck for a long time. This move is called Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations. The move I just used was the first transformation. If you can learn it, it won't be a problem for you to challenge someone 5 levels above you. Huh. Lei Ren was stunned. Challenge someone 5 levels above you? Did this have to be so King exaggerated? Mo Shi continued, of course, Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations is not something that can be mastered overnight. But even if you master half of it, it will be enough to defeat someone 2 or 3 levels above you. Lei Ren's heart skipped a beat. What if I master it to the 9th transformation? When Mo Shi heard this, he recalled that he had accidentally destroyed the entire earth and blasted Happy into smithereens. Even his own body was blasted into smithereens. He coughed dryly and said, cough cough about this, you can talk about it after you master it to the 3rd transformation. Lei Ren probed again, then Big Brother Mo, which transformation are you at now? Mo Shi smiled. You might know if you have the chance in the future. Lei Ren saw that he could not get an answer and could only ask. If I can really master it, then Brother Mo, I will be indebted to you. In the future, what's mine will be yours and what's yours will still be yours. Our Lei family will be forever grateful to you. Mo Shi shook his head and said, I just saw that you have some talent and was inspired to teach you a move or two. As for whether you are grateful or not, I don't care. Then, under Mo Shi's guidance, Lei Ren began to practice the first transformation of Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations. Of course, Mo Shi would not teach him the true Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations. Taking a step back, even if Mo Shi taught Lei Ren all the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, it would be very difficult for Lei Ren to master the 9th transformation in his lifetime. To be able to master the 5th transformation, he could be called a peerless genius. Moreover, the Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations technique required the coordination of the Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations technique in order to maximize his battle prowess. This practice lasted for a month. He had already missed the start of school. He had also completely missed the 2-month entrance exam after school started. The academy called Lei Ming 3 times and even said that if he did not come, they would revoke Lei Ren's enrollment. Lei Ming had a wider network and finally persuaded the academy's teachers to give Lei Ren a 3-month-long leave. Lei Ren could be considered the first person to apply for a long leave right after entering the academy. After a month, although Lei Ren had not completely grasped the essence of the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations, his control of the lightning attribute energy had completely surpassed his father Lei Ming due to his continuous practice of the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations. He could use the lightning attribute energy to condense long swords, long sabers, long spears, long whips, etc. He could also condense a lightning dragon. However, the lightning dragon that he condensed would sometimes lack a wing or a leg. Sometimes, it would even be a headless lightning dragon. Compared to Mo Shi's lightning dragon first transformation, its power was naturally much weaker. It was naturally impossible to attract the clouds in the sky. Mo Shi could blast down a 1,000-meter tall mountain. At most, he could blast it down 300 meters. But even so, it was enough for him to defeat enemies 2 or 3 levels higher. If he was to deal with the Star Hammer Beast Cub, he would be able to kill it in one strike. If he was to deal with a 140-year Star Beast Cub that was 2 levels higher than him, even if he was unable to kill it in one strike, he would be able to make it turn around and flee. Chapter 582. With Lei Ren's current strength, if he used his full strength in his human form, it wouldn't be a problem for him to defeat opponents 2 levels above him. If the opponent was 3 levels above him and was slightly stronger, it would at most be a draw. If the opponent was slightly weaker, he could still barely win. Next, Wuxia taught him how to condense energy in various parts of his body to attack enemies in his dragon form. This practice lasted for another half a month. During this time, Lei Ren would often complain. Wuxia always used various methods to provoke him. Lei Ren had no choice but to grit his teeth and persevere. At this time, Lei Ren could already begin to condense energy in various parts of his body. He was no longer a simpleton who only knew how to release energy in battle. And he had barely grasped the Thunder Dragon first change. One strike could blow down a 500-meter tall mountain. In a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be a problem for him to defeat opponents 3 levels above him. The reason why Wuxia was so patient and taught here for 3 months. It was because the matter of him destroying the laboratory was still under investigation. So he stayed here to avoid the limelight. When the limelight was more or less over, he would go out and cause trouble. At this time, Lei Ren's combat skills and experience were about the same. The only thing he lacked was actual combat. A real battle that would see blood. On this day when Lei Ren was practicing, Wuxia's dragon will suddenly detected 2 groups of people fighting more than 800 kilometers away. To be exact, 2 groups of dragons were fighting. It should be a group of dragons passing by on an aircraft. They were attacked by another group of dragons flying out of the forest. These 2 groups of dragons added up to about 50. The highest level among them was a 5th level evolved dragon, and the lowest was an ordinary 8th level dragon. It seemed that one group of dragons was robbing the other. In the Cloud Sea Star, some dragons were lazy and didn't do anything. They gathered together and specialized in robbing the passing dragons. These dragons were called dragon bandits. The officials of the Cloud Sea Star had once put in a lot of effort to control the dragon bandits, but because the forest on this planet was huge, the dragon bandits could just hide in the forest and it would be very difficult to catch them again. So it wasn't easy to control them. Wuxia found that this group of dragon bandits had already killed more than a dozen dragon bandits passing by and left with their dragon coins and other valuables. Wuxia glanced at Lei Ren, who was practicing the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, and said, "Let's go, I'll take you to have some fun." Lei Ren was overjoyed. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva. "After staying in this forest for 3 months, my mouth is so bland. Finally, I can eat something good." Wuxia didn't say much. He took Lei Ren and flew towards the location of the dragon bandits as fast as he could. The flight lasted for more than 2 hours. 2 hours later, they arrived at the mountain where the dragon bandits were hiding. Lei Ren asked in confusion, "Big brother Mo, is there a restaurant here?" Wuxia pointed to the dense forest on top of the mountain and said, "That's right. There are people in the forest." Lei Ren was delighted and said, "Then let's go down." Then he jumped down. Soon they arrived at the dense forest. There was a cave in the middle of the forest. There seemed to be the faint sound of human voices coming from the cave. Lei Ren turned around and asked Wuxia, "Big brother Mo, is this the place? It doesn't look like a place that can make good food." Wuxia smiled and said, "Not all restaurants that can make good dishes are big. Sometimes small families can also make good food." Lei Ren nodded and immediately walked towards the entrance of the cave. Then he said, "If there's anything good, take it out." He said it in a commanding tone. It was no wonder. He had been a playboy since he was young, and everyone around him coaxed and spoiled him. Since he was young, his words were evidence of orders. Wuxia almost laughed in his heart. This guy was so innocent that he was cute. Soon, someone inside heard the sound and rushed out. It was 3 burly men. The 3 of them were just ordinary dragons. When they saw Lei Ren and Wuxia, they couldn't help but be angry. "Damn it, it's always been grandpas who steal other people's food. No dragon dares to steal grandpa's food. Today is the first time you've done so." Wuxia hurriedly pointed at Lei Ren. "It's not me, it's him." The 3 burly men saw that although Lei Ming's clothes were dirty, they could tell that they were expensive. They were secretly delighted. Then they scolded Wuxia, "I don't care who you are. Since you're here, leave your dog head." With that, the three of them attacked Immortality and Lei Ren together. Seeing this, Lei Ren glanced at Immortality. Immortality said, "Looks like we've encountered the dragon bandits." Lei Ren finally understood. He immediately turned around, his eyes wide with anger. When encountering the dragon bandits, it was either you die or I live. Although he had never fought with the dragon bandits, he had fought many star beast cubs in the past 3 months. So he wasn't afraid at all. With a flash, he dodged the attacks of the 3 dragon bandits. His right arm turned into a dragon claw and condensed energy. Swish, he slashed across. The 3 dragon bandits were directly cut in half at the waist. 3 dragons, 6 pieces. Blood splattered all over his body. Under the lightning attack, the dragon bandit cells were also greatly damaged. After being cut in half, their recovery speed was also much slower. Immortality said, "Now's the time." It was Lei Ren's first time killing a dragon. He suppressed his disgust and kept waving his sharp claws. He didn't stop until the 3 dragon bandits were cut into pieces. Even if the dragon race had an abnormal recovery ability, it was impossible for them to recover after being cut into pieces. Just as he finished, Lei Ren turned around and bent over. Ugh! He almost vomited all his internal organs out. After all, it was his first time killing a dragon. It was normal for him to not adapt physically. Immortality chuckled in his heart. He still had to get used to it. However, after adapting to the environment here, he would be much faster than his classmates when he entered the school. This could be considered as winning at the starting line. Just as he was thinking to himself, a system notification suddenly appeared in his mind. Frowny face Dragon Slayer. 224,500. Immortality couldn't help but be overjoyed when he heard this notification. Previously, his Dragon Slayer points were only 221. Now it had increased by 3. In other words, for every giant dragon Lei Ren killed, he would get the corresponding Dragon Slayer points. The system's actions were too humane. The system stood up at the right time and showed its existence. Frowny face. After the host has practiced any giant dragon technique or battle technique for at least 10 days, the system will recognize the host as a teacher-student relationship. The giant dragons killed by the host students are also counted as killed by the host, and the corresponding Dragon Slayer points can be obtained. And this is good. With students, he wouldn't have to kill those giant dragons himself in the future. The giant dragons they killed would be counted as his Dragon Slayer points. It seemed like he should take in a few more students in the future. He was still too strong now and had to slowly collect Dragon Slayer points to increase his strength. And if he took in some students and let them kill giant dragons, it wouldn't arouse the suspicion of other giant dragons. Chapter 583. After Lei Ren killed the 3 dragon bandits, he looked at the bloody scene in front of him and felt his stomach churn. Ugh! He vomited out the New Year's dinner. At this moment, the dragon bandits in the cave heard the fighting sounds outside. They felt that something was wrong and stood out one by one. Among these dragon bandits, the one with the highest realm was a rank 5 evolved dragon. There were also 5 rank 1 and 2 evolved dragons. The remaining 40 or so were all rank 8 and 9 ordinary dragons. They came outside the cave. They saw 2 people standing outside the cave. A guy in black clothes was standing not far away, looking at them calmly. The other guy was covered in blood and was bent over, vomiting non-stop. Not far away from his feet, there were 3 piles of blurred flesh. They immediately understood what had happened. "How dare you kill my brother, you're courting death." One of the Type 1 evolved dragons roared and pounced towards Lei Ren. Lei Ren was vomiting and didn't even have time to wipe his mouth. But when he heard the rank 1 evolved dragon pouncing over, his right arm instantly transformed into a dragon claw. At the same time, the dragon claw contained the power of lightning. Whoosh! With one strike, the rank 1 evolved dragon was directly split into 2 from head to toe. When he tried to heal himself, Lei Ren's sharp claws waved and turned him into meat paste in a short time. This time he didn't vomit again. He roared at the other dragon bandits like a madman, "Come on!" The lower-level dragon bandits all looked at each other. What a joke! A rank 1 evolved dragon was instantly killed by a claw. If they still went up, wouldn't they be courting death? That bandit leader was the strongest rank 5 evolved dragon among these dragon bandits. When he saw this scene, his anger rushed to the top of his head. Preposterous! Die for me! As he said that, a flame sword condensed in his right hand and directly pierced at Lei Ren. Although Lei Ren was 3 ranks lower than him, he was a thunder attribute dragon after all. In terms of speed, he was already comparable to the bandit leader. He dodged this attack and condensed lightning in his right hand. However, his lightning didn't condense into a form. Instead, it looked very messy. The bandit leader snorted coldly. Most people would panic when they encountered a thunder attribute dragon. After all, the thunder attribute was known for its high explosive power and destructive power. However, he had a wealth of combat experience. He knew the weakness of the thunder attribute. Its energy was unstable and it was difficult to condense and take form. This prevented the lightning attribute energy from unleashing its full power. Therefore, his flaming sword did not stop and continued to stab at Lei Ren's vital points. City Lord's Mansion. Due to the obstruction of the forest, Madame Lei and Lei Ming were unable to see what their son and Senior Mo were doing in the forest. They were all a little anxious. The bandit leader's attacks were extremely fierce. While Lei Ren was in the process of condensing the lightning attribute energy, he did not have the time to release it. At this time, Lei Ren had already jumped out of the forest in order to avoid that guy's attack. The bandit leader chased after them in the air. Madame Lei's heart skipped a beat when she saw her son being attacked so fiercely by a fire attribute giant dragon. Lei Ming's heart trembled. Even the Class 3 or Class 4 dragons under his command might not be able to withstand such a violent attack. However, at this time he was too far away to help. He could only comfort his wife and himself. With Senior Mo by my side, my son will be fine. At this moment, the two of them were constantly moving in the air. It seemed that Lei Ren could only parry and had no strength to fight back. The dragon bandits below also jumped onto the branches and watched the battle in the air. Seeing that their boss was completely suppressing that guy and was about to take him down in minutes, they raised their fists and shouted, "Kid, you dare to challenge our boss? Aren't you courting death? This guy's level is at most Class 2 or Class 3. He actually dared to challenge our boss 2 or 3 levels above him. Hehe. There's a saying that a newborn calf is not afraid of a dragon. It's probably referring to this guy. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. This guy, he can't even condense his energy and actually dares to challenge our boss. He's simply tired of living." Just as they were discussing, in the sky, the unstable lightning attribute energy in Lei Ren's hand suddenly swung at the bandit leader. However, it was unknown whether it was because the lightning attribute energy was too unstable or because this guy was too weak. Under this attack, the lightning attribute energy did not hit at all. Instead, it flew past Lei Ren's body and flew directly into the sky. The dragon bandits below could not help but laugh. "This guy is here to be funny, isn't he? He's not just funny. I don't know where this funny guy came from. He saw that we're not having any fun hiding in the deep mountains and forests, so he's here to relieve our boredom." Seeing this scene, the bandit leader could not help but laugh. "A kid like you dares to challenge the heroes of our Dragon Gate Mountain?" However, at this moment, everyone was stunned. After the lightning attribute energy was swung out, it actually quickly expanded in the sky. Then it condensed into a lightning attribute dragon. This lightning attribute dragon was 100 meters long and was surrounded by lightning. It looked extremely powerful. Especially when it appeared, a few clouds in the sky seemed to be faintly stirred. The bandit leader's heart skipped a beat. Before the thought could finish flashing through his mind, the dragon in the sky suddenly swooped down at him. The bandit leader knew that this was not good and was about to dodge. However, that dragon was a lightning attribute dragon. Its speed was far faster than any other dragon. Almost instantly, it blasted onto the bandit leader. A glaring blue-white light instantly lit up. Dozens of lightning bolts spread out from the bandit leader's body and blasted onto the dragon bandits on the tree below. Crack, crack, crack. Almost every tree that the dragon bandits were on was directly split into two and caught on fire. These dragon bandits were all struck to the ground. As for the bandit leader in the sky, he was like a black stone that had been burned into black smoke and fell diagonally from the sky with black smoke. The bandit leader was directly killed and did not get up again. As for the other dragon bandits, although they were still breathing, they were not breathing anymore. With one attack, an opponent that was 3 ranks higher was instantly killed. When Madame Lei and Lei Ming saw this scene, they were greatly shocked. Their son was already so strong? Although they had watched their son being trained by Senior Mo for the past few months, they also knew that the power of this move was extremely strong. However, when their son really used this move and killed an opponent that was 3 ranks higher than him, the couple still felt that it was unbelievable. Especially when dealing with a star beast cub and a dragon were 2 completely different concepts. A star beast cub's self-healing ability was not as strong as a dragon's. It was really very difficult to kill a giant dragon. Sometimes, the speed at which you hurt it might not be as fast as its self-healing speed. And now, their son had instantly killed an opponent that was 3 ranks higher than him with one attack. While they were shocked, they were also very grateful to Immortality. Chapter 584. Lei Ren's performance shocked both his parents. Just 3 months ago, their son was still a good-for-nothing who needed bodyguards to follow him everywhere and only knew how to bully others with numbers. Now that 3 months had passed, their son could actually kill an opponent who was 3 levels above him in one strike. And it wasn't just an instant kill. He could even bully others with fewer people. The bandit leader was instantly killed by their son's attack. And the rest of the dragon bandits were all knocked to the ground. All of them were rolling and screaming. And their son's huge change was all because of Mo Chanqian. The two of them only felt that they would never be able to repay Mo Chanqian's kindness in their lives. It wasn't just them. Even Lei Ren himself was shocked. He had just mastered the first transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations and was still a little unfamiliar with it. But in the end it was so powerful with one strike. This was really out of his expectations. He couldn't help but look at his hands. After a moment he raised his head and looked at Immortality. Immortality, however, was somewhat resentful. What are you waiting for? Wait for them to get up and beat you up? Lei Ren's energy was completely exhausted after that strike. Although he still had stamina, his body was very weak. But Immortality had no intention of helping him. He could only grit his teeth and force his weak body to the side of a dragon bandit. No. Because the dragon bandit was struck by lightning energy, his cells were greatly damaged. He couldn't even get up. He looked at Lei Ren in horror. His desire to live made him beg for mercy. Please, don't kill me. Please, I can give you anything. Just don't kill me. Lei Ren used his dragon claws to support himself on the ground. Looking at this person's eyes, he hesitated. Although he was the #1 good-for-nothing in 1,000 miles, he had killed people before. But he had ordered his servants to do it. Before today he had never killed anyone with his own hands. He had killed 4 just now, but he didn't look them in the eye. Now, facing this dragon bandit who had no strength to resist, looking at his desperate eyes at the last moment of his life, he couldn't bear it. Actually, his nature wasn't bad. It was just that his parents had spoiled him too much since he was young. If he liked something, he would just take it. If he didn't, he would snatch it. In his mind, all of this was natural. Now, facing the desperate eyes of a stranger before his death, the human compassion in his heart was finally awakened. The dragon claw on his right arm slowly lowered. He turned around and looked at Immortality. Big brother, can you let him go? Madame Lei, who was watching the live broadcast through the screen, turned her head to Lei Ming and said, "My son is so kind." However, Lei Ren shook his head helplessly. Having been on the battlefield before, he deeply understood that being merciful to the enemy was being cruel to one's comrades. He had seen how many people had killed their comrades because they had been too soft on the enemy. The battlefield was not a charity hall. There was no room for pity for the enemy. When would his foolish son understand this logic? At the same time he also looked at Immortality. Would Senior Mo be merciful to his enemies? At the scene, Immortality looked at Lei Ren without any objections. The fact that Lei Ren could maintain a little bit of compassion meant that he had not lost his dragon nature. But Immortality had to let him know that mercy was not something that could be used casually. Thinking of this, he shrugged. Do as you wish. With that, he turned around. At the same time he moved his mind. Long Nian controlled the hand of the dragon bandit and pulled out a dagger from his waist. The dragon bandit was terrified. It was not him who was moving, but some force controlling his body to move. He shook his head repeatedly. No. However, his body had already gotten up uncontrollably and stabbed towards the dragon bandit. At this moment, Lei Ren turned his head to ask Immortality for instructions. When Madame Lei saw this, she immediately exclaimed. No. Lei Ming also jumped to his feet in shock. Pooh! The specially refined dagger pierced Lei Ren's heart from the back with a thud. Ah! Lei Ren screamed and turned around. At the same time he was surprised and angry. What? He had already decided to let him go. Why did he have to harm him? In his anger, his body, which had been exhausted of energy, seemed to be filled with energy in an instant. The dragon claw instantly swept across the dragon bandit's head. Swish! The dragon bandit's head was directly cut into 5 pieces. Although Lei Ren was stabbed, with the tenacious vitality of a giant dragon, as long as this degree of injury did not continue to worsen, it would not be life-threatening. Lei Ren did not wait for the headless body of the dragon bandit to fall to the ground and waved his dragon claws. Swish 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 swish. The dragon bandit died instantly. In his anger, Lei Ren came to the side of another dragon bandit. And oh! In his terror, the dragon bandit uttered a sentence in English. Swish! What answered him was Lei Ren's crazy killing. Another dragon bandit, "Ya made." Swish! What answered him was still Lei Ren's dragon claws. In just 5 minutes all 50 of the dragon bandits were killed. Only then did Lei Ren sit weakly among the corpses. He seemed to be a little delirious. Lei Ren pulled out the dagger from his back and his wound quickly healed. Lei Ren looked at Emo Shi in confusion. Why? Emo Shi replied, because you are enemies. There should be no mercy between enemies. To pity your enemy is to be cruel to yourself. Your mercy to the enemy may cause you to lose your life. Even your friends, your woman, and your parents may be harmed. Lei Ren's eyes seemed to have regained some clarity. Emo Shi knew that he had understood, so he did not say anything more. Let him think about it carefully. Madame Lei heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that her son was fine. But even so, her heart still ached when her son had been stabbed in the back with a dagger. Her son had probably never been scratched since he was young. When had he ever suffered such a serious injury? But Lei Ming saw the trick at this moment. Senior Emo did it on purpose. Madame Lei was puzzled. On purpose? What do you mean? Lei Ming replied, those dragon bandits had clearly lost their ability to fight. How could they suddenly attack again? This is very strange. Also, my son's back was facing the dragon bandits, but Senior Emo was facing the dragon bandits. He clearly saw that the dragon bandits were about to attack my son, but he did not warn me. Madame Lei also thought of this and said, he did it to teach my son a lesson? Lei Ming replied, that's right. If it was just a reminder with my son's personality, he might forget after a few days. But Senior Emo made him hurt and bleed, so he will remember it even more clearly. He will never forget this bloody lesson in his life. Chapter 585. Lei Ming and Madame Lei discovered Emo Shi's intentions. This made the two of them extremely grateful to Emo Shi. If I were to teach him this, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to do it in 1,000 or 2 years. But Mr. Emo only used a few seconds to make our son remember this. Madame Lei nodded. Senior Emo is really an expert. Lei Ming nodded as well. But at the same time he had a deeper understanding of Emo Shi. Senior Emo didn't seem to care about anything at all. But one must not underestimate his shrewdness because of this. Just from this incident alone, one could see how shrewd he was. Because of this, Lei Ming became even more cautious of Emo Shi. With Senior Mo's shrewdness, if he had any ill intentions towards him, it was very likely that he would be able to see through it. Then the entire Lei family would be finished. Thinking of this, he immediately shouted, men! Immediately send an order to the clansmen in Cloud Sea City to treat Senior Emo with extra respect. If anyone dares to have any ill intentions, they will be killed immediately. When the servant heard this, he couldn't help but shudder. Although the patriarch was very strict with the clansmen, he had never said that they would be killed. This time he actually gave such an order. It was obvious how much the patriarch respected Senior Emo. He had to be careful when dealing with Senior Emo in the future. At the scene, Emo Shi didn't move immediately. Instead, he waited for Lei Ren's energy to fully recover before flying into the air with him. However, their flying speed wasn't fast. Emo Shi was waiting for Lei Ren to fully recover. Although his body had recovered, his mind hadn't. After all, it was his first time killing someone, and he had been stabbed by the enemy when he had already planned to let the enemy go. He definitely wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time. At this moment, Lei Ren was no longer as cheerful as he usually was. He followed behind Emo Shi in silence. Emo Shi didn't say much to him and waited for him to recover. Finally, on the second day, Lei Ren recovered a little. He began to take the initiative to speak. On the fourth day, Lei Ren had completely recovered. He was still as rich and imposing as before. He was still as profligate as before. But Emo Shi knew that he had changed. His mentality was much stronger than before. His experience in dealing with enemies was far more abundant than the average student of the academy. He had already experienced life and death and had experienced blood. He had already killed a few hundred-star beasts. Compared to those students, he had already won at the starting line. Finally, Emo Shi's group arrived at Ocean of Cloud City. As expected of the main city of Cloud Sea Star. If it had to be described with a few words, then it would be grand, magnificent, 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 and extraordinary. From afar it looked like a path that led straight to the clouds. Flying along this path, they passed through the clouds and saw the rolling sea of clouds. A huge city floated above the sea of clouds. This was the main city of Cloud Sea Planet. This reminded Mo Sure of the heavenly palace in Journey to the West that he had seen when he was young. They flew close to the clouds. When they got closer, they noticed that the city was extremely huge. To what extent? It was so huge that even with Mo Sure's eyesight, he couldn't see the end of it. There was already a butler from the Lei clan waiting for them at the city gate that was over 10 kilometers tall and 5 kilometers wide. When he saw Mo Sure and Lei Ren arrive, he quickly flew over to welcome them. Then he brought Mo Sure all the way to the Watermoon Villa by a lake in the city. Every habitable planet had a powerful Star Lord. The place where the Star Lord lived was called the Star Lord Mansion. The Watermoon Villa by the lake wasn't far from the Star Lord Mansion. It could be said that this was the center of the entire city. Every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Moreover, this was a villa by the lake. It could be said that it was located in the center of the city and wasn't noisy. It was said that just the rent for the villa here was 50,000 dragon coins every month. Ordinary rich families couldn't afford it. Even if they could afford it, they didn't have the means to rent it. Actually, the Lei Ming clan was a little strained to afford it. After all, they had just taken over the two clans' business and needed cash flow. But they couldn't neglect Senior Mo. So they chose a place like this. Moreover, it was close to the academy. Their son could choose to stay in the academy and live here. He could also frequently receive Senior Mo's guidance. So they endured the pain of renting this place. This villa was very big, over 1,000 square meters. A swimming pool and a garden were all basic amenities. Mo Sure lived here and no one disturbed him. The next day, the butler brought Lei Ren to the Cloud Sea Academy to register. Mo Sure and Lei Ren had originally set off a month before the start of school. But now, school had already started for 3 months. This meant that Lei Ren had completely missed the opening ceremony and the 2 months of wilderness training. One had to know that the opening ceremony and the 2 months of wilderness training were very important in the eyes of many people. During the opening ceremony, the dragons' levels would be tested. They would be divided into classes according to their levels. If they came late, they would be assigned to the worst class, Class 0. Class 0 meant that they had nothing and couldn't do anything. So they were called Class 0. Class 0's teaching resources were much worse than the other classes. And the 2 months of wilderness training after school started was even more important. Many people called this the first lesson of school. Not only could they learn a lot, but they could also show their strength to their classmates and teachers. If the foundation here was good, it would be very convenient for them in the future. Lei Ren missed this and could only report to Class 0. The butler sent him to Class 0 and left the academy. Lei Ren entered the classroom. There weren't many people in the classroom, about 20 or so. He glanced around and saw that there were only empty seats at the back. He immediately went to the back and sat down. Many classes with bad morals had a tradition of bullying new students. Class 0 was no exception. Because their levels were relatively low during the level test, most of them were only rank 1 evolved dragons. So they were assigned here. The Tier 1 dragons all had mocking smiles on their faces at this moment. They came to Lei Ren's side and surrounded him. "You're the guy who didn't report for school and skipped 2 months of classes, right? You're quite arrogant," a yellow-haired dragon said. Lei Ren glanced at them and chuckled. "So what if I am?" The yellow-haired dragon also laughed. "If you are, kneel down and kowtow to us 3 times. When you see us in the future, call us Big Brother, understand?" Lei Ren also looked at these people with great interest. "What if I say no?" The yellow-haired dragon nodded. "Interesting. Then I'll tell you the answer now." Then he nodded to the people around him. The dragons immediately reached out and pressed Lei Ren's head. They wanted to hit Lei Ren's head on the table. However, before their hands could touch Lei Ren's hair, bang 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 bang, the 5 dragons smashed the windows and flew out of the window. They landed at the feet of the teacher who had just arrived for class. Chapter 586. Crash, crash, crash. The sound of 3 windows shattering could be heard. 5 figures flew out of the window. The other 17 students in the class were waiting to watch a good show. But when they saw this scene, they all stood up. They looked at Lei Ren in shock. Lei Ren was satisfied with their expressions and nodded. He stretched out his right hand and tapped the ground with his index finger. "In this class," he pointed at himself with his thumb, "I'm the boss from now on." All the students were stunned. They looked at the 5 students who had just gotten up. Among the 5 of them, the yellow-haired one was the highest. He was a rank 2 evolved dragon. He was the boss of the class. But now, someone took the lead and shouted, "Bo, boss." With someone taking the lead, the rest all followed suit. "Boss, boss, boss." Lei Ren nodded in satisfaction and waved his hand. "Let's go, let's go." Everyone returned to their seats. At the same time, the Class Zero's instructor Yu Yanran was a little late for class. He was hurrying over. But at this moment there were a few rustling sounds. Then 5 figures flew out of the sky. They just happened to fly under her feet. She couldn't help but be stunned. These were the 5 tyrants of the class. What was going on today? But no matter what, these 5 guys must have caused trouble. Anger surged in her heart. "You 5 are courting death." As she spoke, she waved her energy. The 5 guys were involuntarily sent flying hundreds of meters into the air. A moment later they screamed and fell from the sky. Boom, 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 the 5 of them all crashed to the ground. In the distance, the teaching director saw the 5 students in the school uniform flying in the air. He shook his head helplessly. Instructor Yu was teaching the students a lesson again. Instructor Yu was young and beautiful. She was passionate about people. If you only saw her at first glance, she would definitely be a dream girl. But in the school, not a single instructor chased after her. Because her temper wasn't good and she was quite violent. Just like now, throwing students hundreds of meters into the air and then throwing them back down was nothing out of the ordinary for her. Who would dare to chase after such an instructor? But then again, only a teacher like her would be able to keep Class Zero in check. After Yu Yanran finished dealing with the yellow-haired guy and his gang, she stormed into the classroom. After the other guys got up, they didn't dare to complain and went to the classroom one after another. Everyone thought that the biggest bully in Class Zero was Huang Mao. Actually, very few people knew that Yu Yanran was the biggest bully in Class Zero. When Yu Yanran entered the classroom, the originally noisy classroom suddenly became solemn. Yu Yanran glanced at the dozen or so students in the classroom. In the end, his gaze fell on the newcomer Lei Ren. "Who did it?" She stared at Lei Ren intently. Lei Ren had been a playboy since he was young, so he didn't care about her. He said directly, "They wanted to bully me, but in the end, I bullied them instead. Is there a problem?" Yu Yanran looked at Lei Ren and snorted coldly in her heart. It seemed that this little fellow was also a troublemaker. "You came at the right time. I specialize in dealing with troublesome people." Thinking of this, she strode over to Lei Ren with her slender legs. "It's not that there's a problem, it's that you're in trouble, big trouble." As she spoke, her right hand reached out to grab Lei Ren's shoulder. Lei Ren subconsciously dodged, easily dodging the claw. The students in the class were shocked. Teacher Yu was a rank 4 giant dragon. Moreover, she used a surprise attack. This was her usual method. Among the students in the class, whether male or female, which one of them hadn't suffered at her hands before? No, it wasn't a loss but a miserable defeat. This newcomer was at most a rank 2 giant dragon. Moreover, he had caused such a big trouble the moment he arrived. When Teacher Yu was angry, even if she didn't use her full strength, she would at least use 30 to 50% of her strength. Even if it was 30 to 50% of her strength, the students wouldn't be able to withstand it. She didn't expect that this newcomer would be able to dodge it so easily. Yu Yanran was also slightly surprised. However, with her violent temper, this little surprise quickly turned into anger. Her right arm turned into a flaming dragon claw and chopped down at Lei Ren. Lei Ren's right arm also turned into a dragon claw with lightning coiling around it. He dodged the dragon claw in an instant. With a strange twist of his body, he appeared behind Yu Yanran. At the same time, his foot also kicked towards Yu Yanran's back without any hesitation. Yu Yanran had a violent temper, but Lei Ren didn't have a good temper either. Yu Yanran had never seen such a nimble movement before. She couldn't dodge at all. She only had time to turn around and cross her arms in front of her body. Bang, an impact force suddenly came. Yu Yanran immediately retreated. The tables and chairs in the classroom were knocked over. The group of students quickly jumped up to prevent themselves from being affected. At the same time, they looked at Lei Ren with extreme surprise. This guy's strength was so strong? Not to mention that he was late for school by a few months. The first lesson was to hit a student and a teacher. This was going to turn the sky upside down. Yu Yanran's pretty eyes were filled with anger as she roared, "Brat, you're courting death." After saying that, a fiery red energy condensed into a flaming giant hammer in her right hand. There were also dozens of thick and hard spikes on the hammer. This was Yu Yanran's weapon. Lei Ren didn't hold back. "Since young, I was the one who bullied others. No one dared to bully me. How could I be bullied by a woman now?" Above the right claw, streaks of lightning continuously crackled. In the previous 2 rounds he had already felt the strength of this woman. She was only a rank 4 evolved dragon. And if she went all out, killing a rank 5 evolved dragon would be a cinch. How could he be afraid of this woman? When the 2 of them were at daggers drawn, an old man who looked to be in his 60s passed by the door. Seeing the situation inside, he helplessly shook his head. "Teacher, you should also restrain your fiery temper." After saying that, an invisible long way brazenly spread out. Yu Yanran and Lei Ren were suppressed by this long way. The 2 of them suddenly felt an inexplicable chill from the bottom of their hearts. The energy in their hands also quickly disappeared. Yu Yanran turned to look at the old man and said, "Dean, I'm educating students. It's not good for you to suddenly intervene like this." The old man who was called the dean glanced at Lei Ren and then looked at Yu Yanran. He couldn't help but shake his head and said, "Education also needs to pay attention to the method. If you act rashly, it will only make their rebellious heart stronger." After saying that, he no longer paid attention to Yu Yanran and slowly left. At this time, the dean's unspoken words were, "If I don't intervene, I'm afraid you will be beaten to death. That guy is not as simple as you see on the surface." Chapter 587. After the dean left, Yu Yanran raised her eyebrows, still unwilling to let go. She took 3 steps with her slender legs and arrived in front of Lei Ren. She stared at Lei Ren with fire in her eyes. An ordinary student would have panicked when being stared at by a teacher like this. But Lei Ren had been fighting with those star beast cubs in the forest for several months. Why would he be afraid of a woman's gaze? He raised his head and stared at the woman who was half a head taller than him. The atmosphere between the 2 was tense again. The students in the class were so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Even the yellow-haired guy and the other 4 were standing quietly by the wall, not daring to move. The 2 stared at each other for more than 10 seconds. Finally, Yu Yanran burst into laughter. "Ah, kid, good, I like you. What's your name?" Everyone was stunned. This turn of events was a bit sudden. The yellow-haired guy and the others also opened their eyes wide. It turned out that the teacher liked this. If they had known earlier, they would have done the same. They wouldn't have been scolded like dogs by the teacher now. However, they quickly rejected their own thoughts. The teacher liked this, but you had to have the strength to do so. Otherwise, the teacher would probably send you flying out of the window. How could they play this game? Lei Ren was also full of question marks. What's wrong with this woman? So strange. But since he knew that she was a teacher and her attitude was so good, if he continued to ignore her, it would be a bit unreasonable. He immediately replied, "Lei Ren?" Yu Yanran couldn't help but laugh. "Lei Ren? This name is very shocking. From now on you'll be my confidant. In this school, if anyone bullies you, just tell them my name, I'll protect you. Study hard, I have high hopes for you." Lei Ren's face showed a somewhat stiff smile. What confidant, what protect you? Why did it sound like the language of street gangsters? Could it be that this tutor was a gangster? Yu Yanran patted Lei Ren's shoulder and said, "Sit down and tell me, why did you come 3 months late?" Lei Ren smiled bitterly and shook his head. Because something happened at home. He didn't want to tell her that he had been training in the forest with Brother Mo for 4 months. Yu Yanran nodded, "And it doesn't matter if you don't want to say it. 3 days later, it will be the mock exam for the first years of our academy." When the other students in the class heard the words mock exam, their expressions turned gloomy. The so-called test was because some people among the dragons had suggested that levels did not represent combat power. Therefore, when they entered the school, after their grades were tested and they were divided into classes, there was also a mock exam. The classes that performed outstandingly in the mock exam would be able to obtain more resources. Although level didn't represent combat power 90% of the time, it did. During the entrance exam, Class 0 was the worst class in the entire first grade. Naturally, their combat strength was the weakest. What would they use to compete with the other classes in the mock exam? And if they didn't get a good ranking, the teaching resources they would receive would definitely be the worst. But these people did not include Lei Ren. Lei Ren glanced at these people and shook his head. "I don't care if it's a mock test or a mock test, I'm going to get first place." All the students looked at Lei Ren in surprise. Getting first place in the mock exam was already bearable, but what the hell was a mock test? Yu Yanran patted Imoshi's shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. "Good. That's exactly what I want." PFFF. Many of the students present almost spat out. "Instructor, do you think it's appropriate for an instructor to call himself, this old lady?" in front of so many students? In the next 2 days, Class 0 was much more peaceful. Because Lei Ren had displayed extraordinary strength on his first day at the academy, the students of Class 0 naturally regarded him as their boss. Even that yellow-haired student regarded Lei Ren as his boss. At this moment, Mo Shi was not in a position to cause trouble. At the very least, it wouldn't be too late to cause trouble after he understood the entire planet and the entire Myriad Dragon Starfield. From what he knew, the entire Myriad Dragon Starfield had a total of 3,600 planets with life. It was divided into the East, the Eastern Imperial Region, 650 planets with life. The West, the Western Flame Region, 650 planets with life. The South, the Southern Ming Region, 650 planets with life. The North, the Big Dipper Region, 650 planets with life. The largest region was the Central Starfield, with a total of 999 planets with life. Some people might think, doesn't this add up to 3,599 planets with life? There's still one planet left. Mo Shi also wondered. However, he couldn't find any explanation on the internet. It seemed that 3,600 was an imaginary number. If you took it seriously, you would lose. While Mo Shi was studying the entire Myriad Dragon Starfield, Shanghai Academy's first-year mock exam had begun. All first-year students had to participate in the mock exam. Everyone's student number would be used to draw lots. There were a total of 7 first-year classes. The students of Class 1 had the best foundation. In the first 23 matches, they had won all their matches. The second year's results were second. Class 5 was a dark horse ahead of Classes 3 and 4. The worst was of course Class 0. They had basically all failed in the previous matches. Instructor Yu Yanran shook her head repeatedly. Although she had a bad temper, the instructors of those classes didn't dare to make fun of her. However, when she saw the smiles on the instructors' faces, she couldn't help but feel angry. Naturally, she didn't treat the students in her class well. In fact, the students of Class 0 felt wronged in their hearts. Their levels were low during the test, and now they were taught a lesson. Moreover, they had to bear the ridicule of the other classes. They were angry, but they didn't know who to vent it on. It wasn't until 11 o'clock that Lei Ren went on stage. His opponent was Class 2's Shui Miao. Shui Miao was a water-type dragon. Although she was only a rank 1 evolved dragon, her control of water-type energy had reached the point of perfection. It was said that her strength was definitely at the top of Class 2. In Class 2 she was the big sister. When she went on stage, the students of Class 2 shouted loudly. One had to know that every one of them was an evolved dragon. Their shouts were terrifying. If this had happened on Earth, this shout would probably have scared many people to the point of peeing their pants. When Lei Ren went on stage, the students of Class 0 were also shouting, but after all, they were much weaker. Although Lei Ren had fought to a draw with the instructors had definitely held back. And when Lei Ren went against the students of other classes, they wouldn't hold back at all. Therefore, the students of Class 0 were a little nervous. On the other hand, Yu Yanran's gaze swept across the instructors. She was already looking forward to it. She was waiting to watch a good show. Chapter 588. In the entire first grade, Class 0 was the only one who hadn't won a single match. The entire school was laughing at Class 0. Although none of the teachers laughed at Yu Yanran, they didn't think much of Class 0. At this moment, Lei Ren finally stepped onto the stage. Amidst the sparse cheers of the students below the stage, he faced Shui Miao, who was seated opposite him. Shui Miao was also a proud and arrogant person. Although she was only at the first rank, her battle strength had increased over the past 2 months. She could easily defeat opponents at the third rank. Many teachers were optimistic that she would take the top 3 in this mock exam. Shui Miao faced Lei Ren and sneered, "Let's begin." Bang. As soon as her voice fell, she was sent flying. She flew far away from the stage. Her blue dress was already covered in dust. The fairy who had been floating like an immortal was now directly smashed into the dust. Whoosh! The thousands of students in the audience were in an uproar. One move. This guy defeated Shui Miao in one move. Damn, he's too strong. It's too fast. It's really too fast. I didn't even see what happened. Lei Ren retracted his fist and looked at the incredulous Shui Miao who had just gotten up. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Shui Miao had never suffered such a great humiliation. Since she was young, she had been the apple of everyone's eye. Because of her beauty, she was the goddess in the hearts of all the boys. Wherever she went, she was doted on. But now she met such a guy who blasted her out of the stage with one punch. She was in such a sorry state. How could she bear it? This guy is so ruthless. He's really ruthless. Some students couldn't help but exclaim. Yeah, she's such a beautiful girl. How could he do that? Of course, they didn't know that this was all because of Wang Yi's training for Lei Ren. After a few months in the forest, the naive Lei Ren learned that many things in the world weren't as they seemed. Often, the more beautiful something was, the more dangerous it was. The same was true for women. Immortality also let Lei Ren know that once a battle started, there was only one enemy. To be merciful to the enemy was to be cruel to oneself and the people one cared about. Therefore, even if Lei Ren was facing a beautiful woman, he would not show any mercy when he attacked. Some of the mentors at the side were pleasantly surprised by Lei Ren's student. To be able to reach this stage at such a young age, it was truly not simple. However, the tutor of Class 2 was unhappy. Although his temper was not as bad as Yu Yanran's, it was definitely not good either. Originally, their Class 2 Shui Miao was their class's biggest hope of getting into the top 3 this time. In the end, he was punched out of the ring. How could he tolerate this? Referee, this brat launched a sneak attack. Shui Miao wasn't prepared at all. He said, barely suppressing his anger. When Yu Yanran saw this, she couldn't take it anymore. Ah, not ready? She was the one who said it herself. If this isn't being prepared, then what is? Although the teacher of Class 2 had a bad temper, when she saw Yu Yanran's eyebrows furrow, she seemed to be about to flip out. He could only reluctantly swallow his anger. Not only did Yu Yanran have a bad temper, she also had a strong background. Not to mention a small tutor like him, even if the dean provoked Yu Yanran, as long as Yu Yanran said a word, the dean would probably suffer. Thinking of this, he flicked his sleeves and snorted coldly before returning to his seat. In the following battles, Lei Ren basically defeated his opponents with a single punch. He defeated the strongest of Class 3, Class 4, Class 5, Class 6 and Class 7 in a row. He advanced into the finals. In the finals, his opponent was Class 1's Poison Dragon, Du Faidu. This Du Faidu was very good at using poison. Previously, many experts were defeated by his poison. Many dragons' expressions changed when they heard about Du Faidu. Moreover, Du Faidu was the only rank 4 dragon among the first years. Facing such a guy, the other dragons could only flee. However, Lei Ren was not afraid at all. After all, he had learned how to deal with poison-type creatures from Immortality. Soon the competition began. Almost half of the students were cheering for Du Faidu. As for Lei Ren, the cheers were much softer. When the referee gestured for the start of the competition, Missouri Sure arrived behind Du Faidu at lightning speed. Then he threw a punch. Bang! Du Faidu immediately flew to the side. Once again he flew out of the arena. When everyone present saw this scene, they were all shocked by Lei Ren's performance. A rank 2 dragon had instantly killed a rank 4 dragon. Moreover, it was Du Faidu, who was the strongest among the first years and had the highest chance of winning first place. Just how strong was this guy? All of the instructors present were shocked. A moment later, a tutor said, with the combat strength this guy displayed, I'm afraid he's even stronger than some of our tutors. After saying this, the tutor felt that it was a little ridiculous. In the academy, some genius students in the upper grades were stronger than many of the teachers. This was very normal. After all, most of the tutors in the academy were around rank 5 evolved dragons. But how could a normal first-year student be stronger than a 5th-rank instructor? Was this a King joke? Actually, they had never seen Lei Ren instantly kill a rank 5 bandit leader. That was a real instant kill. While he was still in shock, the dean said to a handsome male instructor with long hair beside him, "That's right. Tutor Jean, you're one of the most outstanding tutors in our academy. What do you think of this guy?" Tutor Jean nodded, and he's a promising talent. Unfortunately, he's a little arrogant. If he's guided, he'll definitely become a great talent in the future. Then Tutor Jean, are you interested in teaching him? The dean asked. Tutor Jean waved his hand. Forget it. You want me to snatch him from Tutor you? I don't have the guts. The dean laughed and said, I'll talk to Tutor you. We can't let such a good seedling go to waste. Tutor Jean still shook his head. Forget it. I saw this guy's hand movements and battle awareness. It's obvious that someone specially trained him. Since he has an expert behind him, we don't need to get involved. Maybe he just came to our academy to get a diploma. The dean pondered for a moment and said, You're right. Then we won't get involved. But I don't know who trained him. To be able to train this guy like this, that person must be extraordinary. If there's a chance, I'd like to get to know him. Chapter 589. Lei Ren won first place and won a large amount of teaching resources for Class 0. According to the rules, every student in the class that won first place was given an individual cultivation room. These cultivation rooms were filled with all kinds of black technology related to cultivation. For example, the star brain could plan a cultivation plan according to the strength of each dragon's cells. There was also a device that could detect the gap between cells and calculate the energy capacity of each cell. There was also a variety of medicines distributed every month. This made the students of Class 0 go wild with joy. They didn't have the qualifications to have these things. It was Lei Ren who fought for them. Therefore, all the students were willing to call Lei Ren boss. Just as the 23 students of Class 0 were about to go wild with joy, Instructor Yu walked into the room. The other students hurriedly returned to their seats with solemn expressions. Only Lei Ren still had a smile on his face. Yu Yanran was very fond of Lei Ren. Lei Ren, you've brought glory to our class today. You've made this teacher raise my head in front of those old guys. If you have any problems in the future, feel free to tell this teacher. As long as this teacher can help, I'll definitely help. The way she spoke didn't sound like a teacher at all. Instead, she sounded more like a gangster boss. Then he asked, "That's right. Judging from your fighting techniques and combat awareness, there should be another expert teaching you." Lei Ren nodded. Yes. Yu Yanran was curious. I'm very curious. What kind of expert can teach a genius like you? Are you interested in introducing us? Lei Ren was about to speak when the teaching director came in. He was a bald old man. He said to Yu Yanran, "Teacher Yu, I have a few words to say to Lei Ren. Is it convenient now?" Yu Yanran nodded. Of course it's convenient. The teaching director waved at Lei Ren and the two walked out of the classroom. Yu Yanran put on a righteous expression and didn't want to interfere. But as soon as the two walked out of the classroom, Yu Yanran's ears perked up and she quietly listened to their conversation. She heard the teaching director ask, "Student Lei Ren, right? Congratulations on getting first place in today's mock exam." Lei Ren nodded. Yes. The teaching director asked again. "You should have an expert teaching you, right?" Lei Ren nodded again. At the same time, he admired Emo Sure even more. These mentors could tell that Big Brother Emo was an expert from their own skills. This showed how strong Big Brother Emo was. He nodded again. Yes. The dean asked again, "Then can you introduce him to me? I admire him a lot." Just as he said this, Yu Yanran had already walked out of the classroom. Her face was filled with curiosity and anticipation. "I also want to meet those experts." Lei Ren pondered for a moment and said, "How about this? I'll go back today and ask if he's willing to meet you." The two instructors were speechless. You look at me, I look at you. The expressions on their faces were somewhat strange. The instructors of the academy and especially the instructors of Ocean of Clouds Academy possessed an extremely high status in society. No matter how weak the instructor's strength was, so long as he said he was an instructor of Ocean of Clouds Academy, then everyone would feel deep veneration towards him. After all, the Ocean of Clouds Academy was the strongest academy on Cloud Sea Star. It was just like on Earth. When people heard that there was a professor from Peking University or Tsinghua University, they would definitely be knowledgeable and would naturally be respected. Many people on Cloud Sea Star took pride in knowing the instructors of Cloud Sea Academy. But this Lei Ren, two instructors from Ocean of Clouds Academy took the initiative to meet the person behind you, and you actually said something about going back and asking if he was willing to meet us. If the two of them knew that the expert behind Lei Ren was a super evolved giant dragon, they probably wouldn't think this way. In the entire Cloud Sea Star, there weren't many super evolved giant dragons. And there were only 70 or 80 super evolved giant dragons like Emo Sure in the entire Cloud Sea Star. If Emo Sure revealed his true strength, there wouldn't be any force on Cloud Sea Star that wouldn't want to befriend Emo Sure. It was just that Emo Sure was more low-key and didn't want to reveal his true strength. Hearing Emo Sure say this, the two instructors could only nod. Alright then. Go back today and ask. We'll wait for your reply tomorrow morning. That afternoon, Lei Ren returned to the lakeside villa. With a happy expression he said, "Big Brother Emo, guess what rank I got in today's mock exam?" Emo Sure couldn't be bothered with him. "Go ahead." "First?" Lei Ren excitedly jumped onto the stone table in the courtyard and stretched out a finger. "First. There are 7 classes in the entire grade, 150 people, and I'm first." Emo Sure continued to look down at the chess pieces on the table as he casually said, "Oh. Lei Ren asked doubtfully, Big Brother Mo, why don't you look excited that I got first? Why don't I call a few girls over to accompany you tonight? Only then did Mo Shi raise his head and roll his eyes at Lei Ren. I've taught you so much. If you can't even get first place in the first grade, wouldn't you be too useless? Lei Ren shook his head speechlessly. Can't you encourage me? You only know how to attack me. But what you said makes sense. How about this? My goal is to defeat all my opponents in the final exam in 2 months and get first place among all the students in the academy. What do you think? Mo Shi sighed helplessly. Sigh, mud can't be applied to a wall. Lei Ren was speechless again. One had to know that the academy had a total of 6 grades. 1,000 students. Each grade had to study for 10 years before they could move on to the next grade. The highest grade, the 6th grade, had already studied in the academy for more than 50 years. Their strength also far exceeded that of the first grade students. Some of the students' strength had even surpassed some of the teachers. Now that Lei Ren had just entered the academy and said that he wanted to get first place in the entire academy, Mo Shi was actually not satisfied. Big Brother Mo, you can't let me challenge the teachers, right? This time, Mo Shi placed a chess piece on the board and said, Exactly. Lei Ren was even more surprised. Hey, Big Brother Mo, I know that I have potential, I know that I'm very awesome. But you want me, a freshman who just entered the academy, to challenge the teachers? Isn't this too ridiculous? Mo Shi chuckled. With an expert like me teaching you, if you don't even have the strength to defeat the teachers in your academy, then how useless are you? Lei Ren, Mo Shi continued, I want you to be able to challenge all the teachers in the final exam in 2 months, including your academy's teaching director who is a level 10 evolved dragon. Lei Ren spat out. The teaching director was a level 10 dragon, the same level as his father. You want me to challenge him in 2 months' time? What kind of joke was this? Chapter 590. Seeing that Lei Ren did not believe him, Mo Shi shook his head and said, I will pass the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations to you. You will learn it within 2 months. And as you continue to practice the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations, your level should be able to rise by 1 within 2 months. At that time, wouldn't it be easy for you who is at the 3rd stage to challenge the 10th stage Dean? Lei Ren spat out once again. A 3rd stage challenge, a 10th stage? A 7th stage challenge? Only you can say that. However, after witnessing the power of the first transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations, he was rather confident in the power of the second transformation. Perhaps he could really challenge the Dean at that time. Seeing that Wang Yi did not seem to be joking, the gaze in his eyes became fiery. Alright, from tomorrow onwards, my goal is to challenge the Dean. Mo Shi shook his head. What do you mean from tomorrow onwards, from today onwards? Lei Ren could not help but smile bitterly. Big Brother Mo, I just got first place, can't you let me relax? I'll call a few girls over tonight, you can also relax. This way everyone will be happy. Mo Shi glared at Lei Ren. Lei Ren laughed awkwardly and did not dare to say anything else. Mo Shi immediately passed the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon to Lei Ren. If he wanted to learn the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon, he would need the cooperation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations. Thus, Mo Shi passed the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations to Lei Ren. Whether it was a cultivation technique or a skill, the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations was a collection of the strengths of everyone. It was the easiest to understand, the easiest to practice, and the most powerful cultivation technique and skill. Many people could understand it at a glance, but almost no one dared to practice it. This was because many of the energy circulation routes in the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations were the opposite of what they had learned in the past. For example, light was an energy storage. What they had learned in the past was to store the energy in the back or the energy sea in the abdomen. However, the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations required energy to be stored in every cell. For example, the method of releasing energy that they had learned in the past was to circulate it from the dantian, through several veins, and finally gather in the hands. However, the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations required the transfer of energy between cells. It's like how sound travels at a different speed in air than it does in solid objects. Solid objects travel faster. For the same reason, the transmission between the cells was faster than the transmission between the meridians that seemed to be unobstructed. This knowledge completely overturned the understanding of the dragons. Therefore, even if the average giant dragon saw it, they would think that it was just a made-up secret manual. If not for Lei Ren's complete trust in Emo Shi, he would not have dared to practice this Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations. Lei Ren was extremely excited. "Thank you, Brother Emo." After saying that, he hurried back to his room to practice. But before he left, he suddenly remembered something. He then turned around and said, "Big Brother Emo, when I was fighting today, both Teacher Yu and the teaching director could tell that I had an expert guiding me from behind. That's why they wanted to meet you." Emo Shi pretended to be in a difficult position. "I'm used to being free and unfettered, so I don't want to know too many people. The more people you know, the more trouble there will be." Lei Ren saw that Emo Shi was in a difficult position and said, "Big Brother Emo, if you're in a difficult position, I'll tell them that you don't want to meet them. Our Teacher Yu is a young and beautiful woman. It's a pity that you don't want to meet them." Emo Shi pondered for a moment and said, "I'm used to being free and unfettered, so I don't want to know too many people. But since they're your teachers, it wouldn't be appropriate if I don't go. How about this? You tell them that I'm willing to meet them tomorrow and see when they have the time to come here." Lei Ren chuckled. Indeed, even heroes have a weakness for beauties. He did not feel that there was anything wrong with Emo Shi asking the two of them to come here. One must know that Big Brother Emo was a rank 4 super evolved giant dragon. But this was only on the surface. Actually, his father had told him that Big Brother Mo's strength had probably reached the level of an ancient giant dragon. Otherwise, he would not have been able to kill more than 300 people from the two family in one move. No matter how high the status of these two teachers was, they were nothing in front of an ancient giant dragon. For Big Brother Emo to meet them was the greatest honor of their lives. Seeing that it was getting late, the two of them returned to their rooms to rest. When it was almost 12 o'clock at night, Emo Shi said, "System, sign in." The system's voice sounded frowny face. "Special event sign in successful. Sign in event. Disciple defeated all the students of the academy and won first place in the year. Sign in reward. Water Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Poison Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Earth Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Ice Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Wood Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill." This? Emo Shi was greatly surprised. He actually received so many 9 transformations with different attributes in one sign-in. Previously, the 9th transformation of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations had already shocked him. He did not expect the system to produce so many 9 transformations with different attributes. It seemed that these attributes were the attributes of the opponents that Lei Ren defeated today. With so many cultivation methods, the only one missing was the Golden Dragon's 9 transformations. Moreover, there was a special attribute of the Poison Dragon's 9 transformations. He wondered how terrifying it would be if he cultivated the Poison Dragon's 9 transformations to a certain extent. However, Emo Shi currently only had 3 attributes in his body: ice, fire, and lightning. Therefore, he could only cultivate the 9 transformations of the ice, fire, and lightning attributes. Thinking of this, he immediately entered Earth's space. With a thought, he mastered the 9 transformations of the ice and fire attributes. After mastering it, he practiced it in Earth's space. In the end, the 9th transformation of the Ice Dragon's 9 transformations froze the entire space into a solid layer of ice. The 9th transformation of the Fire Dragon's 9 transformations turned the entire Earth space into sticky magma. In other words, at least with a single strike, it could reach the level of destroying Earth. Following that, Emo Shi learned the other attributes. Although he did not have any other attributes, he had already made a plan. He would think of a way to become a teacher of the academy and take in a group of students. When the time came, the knowledge of the 9 transformations would be useful. He would nurture these students and let them slaughter those dragons. Then, there would be no need for him to make a move at all. His dragon slaying points would continue to increase. If someone could go to the battlefield, that would be even better. One had to know that in the current interstellar war, the number of dragons participating in the war could easily reach millions. Tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dragons could be killed in a single battle. Wouldn't that be great? Lei Ren returned to the academy and told the dean and Yu Yanran about Emo Shi's words. The two of them were slightly angry. Especially Yu Yanran, who directly scolded. "I am a teacher of the Cloud Sea Academy. You want me to visit him? You're giving him face." Chapter 591. When Yu Yanran heard that she was going to pay him a visit, she was furious. "You want me to pay him a visit personally? That's giving him face." The dean was also a little uncomfortable. However, the dean was much calmer. After thinking about it, he said to Lei Ren, "If that's the case, then I'll be free tomorrow afternoon after school. Tell him that I'll pay him a visit then." With the dean's experience, many experts had some eccentricities. There were also many experts who were difficult to get close to. If the person behind Lei Ren was a truly powerful expert, then it was reasonable for him to ask him to pay him a visit. So the next afternoon, the dean came to the lakeside villa. Seeing the environment here, he was first amazed. Even if he was the dean of the academy, he couldn't afford to live here. He couldn't even afford to rent it. The rent of 50,000 dragon coins a month was not something he could afford. It seemed that Lei Ren's family had a strong background and was powerful enough. After entering the door, Mo Shi was studying war chess in the courtyard. The dean of teaching looked Mo Shi up and down a few times, his face full of surprise. "Lei Ren, are you talking about this, mister?" Lei Ren nodded. "That's right, what's wrong?" The dean frowned. He looks like... He didn't finish his sentence. But anyone could tell that he meant that Mo Shi didn't look like an expert. Mo Shi also looked away from the chessboard and looked at the dean. The dean cupped his hands at Mo Shi. "You must be Mr. Mo, you've taught a good disciple." Mo Shi smiled. "I was just bored, so I taught him casually." Then the two chatted for about half an hour. In this half an hour, the dean talked about a lot of professional knowledge about cultivation. If it was in the past, Mo Shi wouldn't know anything about this knowledge. After all, he didn't need to cultivate. But now, after mastering the various 9 dragon transformations, he could be said to have a lot of knowledge about cultivation at his fingertips. Sometimes, the cultivation methods he talked about were more effective than traditional cultivation methods. The dean of teaching was stunned when he heard that. He couldn't help but look at Mo Shi up and down again. This person was indeed an expert. Not only was he well versed in all kinds of knowledge regarding the lightning attribute, he was also quite knowledgeable about the other attributes. Moreover, many of his viewpoints were very novel. Although Shi Feng had not verified Lei Ren's theory, just by looking at Lei Ren, a Tier 2 evolved dragon had killed a Tier 4 super evolved dragon. To be able to teach such a disciple, it was clear that Mr. Mo's theoretical knowledge was far superior to many of the academy's instructors. When they were about to leave, the dean of teaching asked, "Mr. Mo, if you have the chance, then I wonder if you're willing to become an instructor in our academy?" Mo Shi pondered for a moment before replying. "Since I have nothing to do anyway, it doesn't matter if I go take a look." The dean nodded. "Then I'll go back and discuss it with the dean today." Mo Shi nodded to send the guests off. The next day was Wednesday, and the academy's instructors had a routine meeting. Other than a few instructors with no duties, the rest of the instructors had to participate. At 8:30 the meeting began, but not everyone had arrived yet. The dean cleared his throat and said, "Then let's begin the meeting." One of the instructors said, "Dean, Teacher Jean hasn't arrived yet." The dean said calmly, "Today's meeting is to inform everyone that Teacher Jean has left our academy to take up a post at Proxima Centauri Academy." All the instructors were quite surprised. Usually, even if an instructor left, it would be after the end of the semester. It was rare for an instructor to leave while still teaching yesterday. The dean's tone was very calm, but the instructors seemed to be able to hear the dean's anger behind this calm tone. The dean continued without hesitation. "You can say that Proxima Centauri Academy came to our academy to poach people and successfully poached Teacher Jean Pontu. We don't have as good a treatment as them, and our academy isn't as famous as Proxima Centauri Academy. He can gain more attention and benefits there." All the instructors fell silent. The dean continued. "Actually, I understand Teacher Jin's choice very well. Proxima Centauri Academy's conditions are much better than ours, and their treatment is better in all aspects. They are also better than our academy in terms of fame and popularity. It's understandable that Teacher Jean chose them. If it were me, I would also choose them." But he suddenly left in the middle of teaching this semester. Who's going to teach their 6th grade class 1? The 6th grade is the graduating class, and these few years are very important to them. It's not something that just anyone can take over. And in such a hurry, it's very difficult for us to find a suitable instructor. At this point, the dean took a deep breath. He continued, "Even if he can't wait until the end of this semester, he should at least wait until we find a suitable instructor to take over their 6th grade class 1. He called me at 8 this morning and said that he won't be coming in the future. He asked me to find time to get someone to pay him this month's salary." At the end of the dean's words, there was obvious anger in his tone. His words also turned into 2 words, "Ha." All the instructors looked at the dean. The dean had always been a very kind person, and he was also a person of few words. But today he said so much in one breath and even said, hee hee. It was obvious that the dean was really angry. Yu Yinran was instantly furious. Running away in the middle of the semester, and he still has the face to ask for salary? Give him a D*****. The other instructors also shook their heads. This is too much. How are we going to find a suitable instructor in such a hurry? The 6th grade Class 1 is the most outstanding class in the entire academy. Every one of them is a genius and they're all proud and arrogant people. If we suddenly change a new instructor, I'm afraid we won't be able to control them at all. After a while, the discussion gradually died down. The instructors all fell silent. Some people shook their heads and sighed. Some people secretly cursed Jean Pontu for being shameless. For his own interests, he didn't care about the interests of the academy and the students at all. Such a person didn't deserve to be an instructor. At this time, an instructor surnamed Bing said, I have a candidate. I have a candidate in mind. He's a recent graduate from Nanming Academy. When he said this, the instructors were a little surprised. Nanming Academy? It's actually Nanming Academy. There were 650 planets with life in the entire Nanming star zone. Among them, the main planet was Nanming Star. And the strongest academy on Nanming Star Zone was Nanming Academy. At the same time, Nanming Academy was also the strongest academy in the entire Nanming Star Zone. The top students who graduated from this academy were basically fought over by the entire Nanming Star Zone. The dean asked, he's willing to come to our small Yunhai Academy. Chapter 592. The dean asked, he's willing to come to a small place like ours? The instructor nodded. Although many forces are fighting for him, he feels that it's best to start from the bottom. It's the best way to train a dragon. These days he's been looking for such an opportunity. If he can come to our school to teach, he'll be very happy. The dean nodded. Okay, then tell him to come over as soon as possible. I want to meet him. The instructor nodded. Okay, I think he can come tomorrow. At this time the dean also spoke. I do know an expert who can give it a try. Everyone turned their heads and looked at the dean. The dean asked, who? The dean said, Lei Ren won first place in the freshman mock exam. At that time, everyone thought that he had an expert guiding him. I went to see that expert yesterday. The dean asked, how was it? The dean said, he's indeed an expert. Not only is he familiar with thunder attribute techniques, but he's also very knowledgeable about water, fire, earth, wood, ice, and even poison attribute cultivation knowledge. All the instructors were surprised. That many? It was already very impressive for an ordinary instructor to master cultivation knowledge of 3 attributes. There were probably very few who could master 4 attributes in the entire star field. How could he master cultivation knowledge of 7 attributes? That was too exaggerated. The dean said in surprise, master so many attributes? Then he must be an incredible expert. Did he ask him if he was willing to teach? The dean nodded. I asked him. He said that since he had nothing to do, it should be possible. And most importantly, he should be able to control the arrogant 6th year Class 1. Everyone should have seen how arrogant Lei Ren is during the mock exam. Instructor, you should know best. But when I visited him yesterday, Lei Ren was very obedient in front of him. Lei Ren did whatever he said. So I think he should have no problem controlling those arrogant geniuses of 6th year Class 1. The dean's eyes lit up. It was one thing to see if an instructor was outstanding and knowledgeable. On the other hand, it was also to see if he could control the students. If he only had profound knowledge, but the students didn't listen to him at all, then what was the point of teaching? Teacher Bing frowned slightly when he saw this. Although the person he recommended was a top student at Nanming Academy, he had to drop out because he had committed a crime. Because he had committed a crime and didn't even have a graduation certificate, it was very difficult for him to find another job. No matter how strong you are, you won't even have the chance to show it. Now that he suddenly had this opportunity, he would be the one to teach the students. If they were taught well, graduation certificates and crimes wouldn't be a problem. After all, teaching qualifications were reviewed once every 5 years. There were still 3 years left before the trial. In these 3 years, he could always find a way to get his graduation certificate while minimizing the impact of his crime. What's more, if he could achieve something in these 3 years, nothing else mattered. But he didn't expect the dean to appear out of nowhere. This was King ridiculous. But there was no other way. The dean had always trusted the teaching director. Moreover, the dean was a good judge of character. Therefore he couldn't say anything. She only hoped that the person she had recommended, who was her friend's son, would perform better tomorrow. The next day, Mo sure slept until almost 11 o'clock before he woke up. After all, he had played too late with Happy last night. After getting up, he looked at the time. He was a little speechless. Sigh. After shaking his head, he began to wash up and eat. When he arrived at the academy, it was almost 11:40. In the academy, the dean was so anxious that he scratched his head. When he finally saw Mosher arrive, he quickly said to Mosher, "Mr. Mo, let's go see the dean now. If we're any later, he might have already gotten off work." Although he didn't say it explicitly, the meaning behind his words was that Mosher came too late. Mosher also scratched his head and said, "I'm sorry. I played chess too late last night, so I woke up late tonight." Soon the two of them arrived at the dean's office. The dean apologized repeatedly. "Dean, I'm sorry. Mr. Mo had something to do in the morning, so he came a little late." The dean smiled and nodded, then said, "It's okay. Our new instructor has already taken office. I think he taught quite well." As he spoke, he pointed at the air screen in front of him. Mosher and the dean looked at the air screen. On the air screen, a young man was teaching the students below the stage. He spoke in simple terms. It was obvious that he was very skilled. The students in the classroom also listened very seriously. The dean shook his head helplessly. In fact, he felt that with Mosher's level, he would definitely teach better than this young man. However, the dean hated people with a poor sense of time the most. He was 3 hours late for an interview. Who would hire such a person? Mosher also felt a little helpless. Happy was really a femme fatale. If it weren't for her, how could he have played until so late? How could he have woken up so late? However, he missed this opportunity. He would think of another way in the future. Thinking of this, Mosher also shook his head helplessly. "Sorry to disturb you." As he spoke, he turned around and was about to leave. However, at this moment, on the screen, the new instructor who was teaching suddenly disappeared under his feet. A circular black hole actually appeared. The next moment, the instructor fell directly into the black hole. He instantly disappeared. A moment later, a black hole suddenly appeared on the ceiling. The instructor fell directly out of the black hole. Crack! He fell directly on the lecture table. The lecture table was smashed into pieces. Then, a vine suddenly stretched out from the ground and wrapped around the instructor. Then it swung with force. The instructor was thrown far out of the window. It turned out that there were students with spatial attributes in class 6-1. They also heard from somewhere about the reason why Instructor Jean left. This made them quite disappointed in the academy's instructors. They thought that the instructors were the engineers of their souls who taught and educated people. They didn't expect that these instructors were all despicable people who would do anything for benefits. Therefore, the moment this new instructor entered, he was tricked by them. The dean's eyes lit up when he saw this. He stopped Mosher. Then he said to the dean, "Dean, why is this new instructor?" Ahem. The dean coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. Then he looked at Mosher and said, "Then let's talk about this Mr. Mo teaching." The dean wanted to laugh in his heart, but he didn't dare to. He turned to Mosher and said, "Mr. Mo, please take a seat." They talked about some cultivation problems with Mosher. Chapter 593. The dean and Mosher talked about some cultivation problems. The more the dean talked, the brighter his eyes became. He thought that the dean was exaggerating. No one could master the cultivation knowledge of 6 attributes at the same time. After all, the cultivation knowledge of each attribute was extremely complicated and varied. Ordinary people were already very talented if they could master one attribute in a short time. It was impossible to master 6 attributes, no matter how talented they were. However, reality proved that Mr. Mo had done it. He really mastered the cultivation knowledge of 6 attributes perfectly. He even mastered more than the dean in many areas. The dean nodded secretly. Although he had talked to Mosher once before, it seemed that every time he heard Mosher talk about cultivation he would gain something. However, the dean was in a dilemma. "Mr. Mo, can you control these students?" Mosher smiled. "Remove the can?" The dean was stunned for a moment before he reacted. "So, Mr. Mo is very confident?" Mosher smiled. "Not very, but too confident." The dean heard this and looked at the dean. This Mr. Mo's professional knowledge was indeed very strong. But why did his words seem a little out of tune? However, since he had already come this far, he could only let him give it a try. Dean, take Mr. Mo to give it a try first. The dean nodded. Okay. Then he took Mo Sure to the door of class 6-1. At this moment, the new instructor had already been taken away. As an instructor, it was indeed tragic to be trampled by a student like that. In the classroom, the students were in a mess. Some were dancing with excitement, while others were lying on the table and laughing. There was a wood attribute dragon that directly used energy to condense many flowers, and the entire classroom became a sea of flowers. The dean asked Mo Sure next to him. Mr. Mo, are you ready? Before he finished speaking, Mo Sure had already walked into the classroom. In the classroom, the students who were in the midst of celebrating were stunned. They looked at Mo Sure. Mo Sure had a smile on his face. Students, I am your new instructor. You can call me Instructor Mo. The students below the stage looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with excitement. A new round of pranks was about to begin. However, just as they made up their minds, they suddenly felt a bone-piercing chill in their hearts. They looked up in horror at the new instructor on the podium. The teacher's face did not change at all. He was still looking at them with a harmless smile. But at this moment, this smile seemed like the smile of a devil to them. He was like a demon that had just crawled out of hell, as if he could tear them apart in the next moment. One had to know that Mo Sure was now a rank 5 super-evolved giant dragon. Not to mention that he often went to the dragon cave to cultivate Long Wei. Even Long Wei, a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon, was far from what these rank 4, rank 5 and rank 6 students could handle. When Mo Sure saw that the students had quieted down, he smiled and said, "Aren't you going to greet Mentor Mo?" While the students were trembling in fear, they spoke out one after another. "Hello, Instructor Mo." Outside the door, the dean heard this and heaved a sigh of relief. In the dean's office, when the dean saw this scene, he also looked at Mo Sure in surprise. How did Mo Sure make these students listen to him? Could it be Long Wei? But that could only be done by a super-evolved colossal dragon, Long Wei. Could it be that this ordinary-looking Mr. Mo had actually become a super-evolved colossal dragon? Thinking of this, the dean's gaze was fixed on Mo Sure on the screen. In the entire academy, only the dean was a super-evolved colossal dragon. If they could have another super-evolved colossal dragon as their instructor, then the Cloud Sea Academy would at least be promoted from a 5th-rate academy to a 4th-rate academy. The Cloud Sea Academy was the best academy on the Cloud Sea Star. But in the entire Nanming region, it was at most a 3rd-rate academy. In the entire 10,000 Dragon Star region, it would be difficult to even become a 5th-rate academy. This instructor Mo could control these students, but it would depend on how well he taught. If he could only control the students and not pass on his knowledge, then he couldn't be considered a good instructor. Mo Sure looked at these students and pointed at the only girl in the class who didn't make a fuss when he came in. He said, "You, what's your name?" The girl quickly stood up and answered with fear, I'm called Mu Wanqing." She was usually a little timid and the students in the class all looked down on her. So she had always felt inferior. Just now, when she was suppressed by Mo Sure and Long Wei, she was even more frightened. Mo Sure said, "When I came in, you were the only one who didn't make a fuss. How about this? I'll reward you with a breakthrough right away, how about it?" Mu Wanqing was at a loss. Or it could be said that she was too frightened and didn't realize what Mo Sure was saying. When the other students heard Mo Sure's words, they all looked at Mu Wanqing in surprise, and then looked at Mo Sure. Mo Sure ignored them and said to Mu Wanqing, "Now, cultivate by yourself and let me see." Mu Wanqing quickly did as she was told. 5 minutes later, she finished cultivating. She lowered her head and said in a low voice, "Mentor, I finished cultivating." Mo Sure said, "Cultivate again. When the energy runs through the 2nd cycle, go through the Dragon Spine Acupoint. When the 4th cycle, go through the Dragon Wing Acupoint. Everything else remains the same." Mu Wanqing looked at Mo Sure in surprise. When she was cultivating with those mentors, they said that her wood attribute energy must never go through the Dragon Wing Acupoint. Otherwise she was afraid that she would go crazy. Why did this mentor let her energy go through the Dragon Wing Acupoint? When the rest of the students in the class saw this, they all frowned slightly. Because when they cultivated, their energy never went through the Dragon Spine Acupoint. The mentors said that the Dragon Spine Acupoint was a useless acupoint. In the hundreds of thousands of years of evolution of giant dragons, this acupoint had been slowly abandoned. It didn't matter whether there was one or not. So when they cultivated, their energy never went through the Dragon Spine Acupoint. Why did this new mentor let them go through this acupoint as soon as they came in? Did he know how to teach them? However, under Mo Shi's abuse of power just now, none of these students dared to refute. Outside the classroom, the dean of teaching was also slightly stunned when he heard Mo Shi's words. How to go through the dragon's spine acupoint. This didn't make sense. He quickly turned around and walked towards the classroom door. If something happened to the students while they were cultivating, how would he explain it to the parents? However, after taking 2 steps he stopped again. Thinking of how Lei Ren was trained to such a state, he thought that this mentor Mo should have some ability. In the dean's office, when the dean saw this scene, although he was puzzled, he was not anxious. This newcomer, teacher Mo, should have some skills. Chapter 594. Cloud Sea Academy, Class 6-1. The girl with low self-esteem Mu Wanqing was cultivating. She didn't follow the usual energy circulation route. Instead, she followed the circulation route that Mo Shi had just mentioned. The first 2 cycles were normal. During the 3rd cycle, the energy passed through the dragon spine acupoint. During the 4th cycle, the energy passed through the dragon wing acupoint. When her energy had just passed through the dragon wing acupoint, she suddenly felt that all the meridians in her body seemed to have become much smoother. These meridians seemed to be much thicker than before. She hurriedly increased the energy output. 5 minutes later, the aura on her body suddenly rose. A huge wave of air spread out in all directions. It blew over the tables and chairs, causing the nearby students to sway. A moment later, the wave of air receded. Mu Wanqing opened her eyes. She was in disbelief and pleasant surprise. She looked at Mo Shi and said, "Instructor, I broke through and became a rank 4 evolved dragon." After saying that, she still couldn't believe it. Previously, she felt that it would be very difficult for her to break through again. Even if she could break through, it would probably take more than 100 years. Not only did she feel that way, but the instructors in the academy also felt the same way. That was why she had always felt inferior. How could Instructor Mo just say a few words and she broke through? Outside the door, the dean was stunned when he heard this. A few words of guidance and she broke through immediately? This was simply unheard of. Even the instructors of the first-rate schools in the Myriad Dragonstar region couldn't do this. When the dean saw this scene, his face revealed his usual shocked expression. Just 2 simple acupoints allowed a student to break through immediately? No one would believe it. When dragons generally needed dozens or hundreds of years to break through, it was simply a joke to teach someone to break through in 5 minutes. Incredible, incredible, the dean muttered to himself. This instructor Mo must stay no matter what. He was definitely an expert who was much stronger than him. Of course, it was impossible for such an expert to stay in a small place like the Cloud Sea Academy. But even if he only stayed for a period of time, it would be a great fortune for the Cloud Sea Academy. Mo Shi's move instantly stunned all the students present. Mu Wanqing lowered her head and said softly, "Mentor Mo, thank you." Although his voice was very soft, it could be heard that he was grateful from the bottom of his heart. At this time, a tall and muscular student stood up and said in a coarse voice, "Let's go. Mentor Mo, my name is Tuching Earth City. Please give me some advice. Ever since I entered the academy, I haven't broken through." When he said this, his voice was filled with excitement. Generally, it would take around 100 years for an evolved colossal dragon to break through. However, all those who were able to enter the academy were geniuses. After he entered Ocean of Clouds Academy, he'd been able to break through at least once during the 50-plus years from the 1st grade to the 6th grade. However, ever since he entered the academy, not only had he not broken through even once, the energy in his body had not increased at all. It was as if the energy in his body had been locked by invisible shackles. In the end, he simply gave up on himself and gave up on cultivating. Anyway, he was just muddling along and getting a graduation certificate. Now that he saw that Instructor Mo could actually help Mu Wanqing break through, it was obvious that he also had great hope. The other students also looked at Mo Shi. "Mentor Mo, please give me some advice." "Mentor Mo, me too. Mentor Mo, I also haven't broken through for 2 days. Please give me some advice again." "Get lost, you just broke through the day before yesterday. Why are you here?" "Mentor Su Mo can give you advice, but he can't give me advice." However, Mo Shi did not immediately agree to them. When it came to students, you couldn't always spoil them. You could do whatever they wanted. Then what would you do if they wanted to ride on your neck and poop in the future? Moreover, among these people, there was a guy with the spatial attribute and a guy with the metal attribute. At present, Mo Shi didn't know anything about the cultivation of space and metal attributes. Therefore he waved his hand. I'm just your homeroom teacher, not your class instructor. Each attribute has its own instructor. You'd better learn from them. Hearing Immortal's words, the other students were all disappointed. Immortal continued. However, it's not like you don't have a chance to receive my guidance. When the students heard this, they all raised their heads. Immortal continued. Do you all know how to play war chess? When the students heard this, they were all a little confused, but they all nodded. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, war chess was still relatively popular. These students more or less knew a little. Immortal continued. Your temperaments are too weak. Practicing war chess can hone your temperament. I'll give you 10 days to learn war chess from me. When your impetuous hearts slowly calm down, I'll give you some guidance in your cultivation. When the students heard this, they felt that it was strange. What did cultivation have to do with war chess? However, when they heard that they had a chance to receive Mentor Mo's guidance, they were all very excited. After all, it was very likely that they would have a chance to break through immediately. In fact, cultivation and war chess had nothing to do with each other. The reason why Immortal said that he would teach them 10 days of war chess had nothing to do with their temperament. According to the system's rules, no matter what he taught someone, as long as they reached 10 days, the system would recognize that person as Immortal's disciple. Therefore, Immortal would teach them 10 days of war chess first. When the time came, they would become Immortal's disciples. At that time, Immortal would have 20 disciples in one go. If he signed in again, he should be able to get some good stuff. It was said that he could also sign in for Metal Attribute and Space Attribute Dragon 9 transformations. This was Immortal's real plan. Therefore, for the next few days, Immortal really taught these students how to play war chess. Although the students' standards varied, no matter how good they were not as good as Immortal's. One had to know that he had once won the runner-up position in a chess competition organized by the city on Earth. Wasn't it easy to teach these students? These days, the dean had been a little confused. Mentor Mo was able to control these students. This made him very satisfied. However, Mentor Mo didn't let these students learn cultivation and various theoretical knowledge from him. Instead, he wanted them to learn war chess from him. This was a little too ridiculous. Even if it was to hone their temperament, this was still really incomprehensible. One had to know that every parent in the 6th grade graduating class hoped that their children could learn more in the academy, so they were very strict with them. If these students went back and said that they were learning war chess from their mentor every day, what would those guys think? Their parents would probably come to the academy soon. Chapter 595. In fact, the dean's worries were not without reason. Some parents of students came to the academy, and it was not just one but more than 10 parents. They came to the dean's office. Some were aggressive and some were frowning. They insisted on asking the dean for an explanation. Dean, our child will graduate in 3 years. It was only 3 years. We all hope that he can learn more useful knowledge in the academy. But the new instructor only taught him how to play war chess? Isn't that too ridiculous? Dean, I don't know what kind of magic potion that instructor fed our child. He actually said that the instructor taught them war chess to hone their temperament. What's even more ridiculous is that the instructor can actually guide the students to break through immediately. Yes, since he can guide the students to break through immediately, why can't he guide our daughter? If he can't guide our child to break through, then please teach our child some useful things. Don't play so many tricks. The dean shook his head. Everyone, our Cloud Sea Academy is a famous academy in the entire Cloud Sea planet. We have absolute credibility. In terms of teaching methods, every instructor has their own set of methods. The reason why instructor Mo let the students learn war chess is to hone their temperament. As for the breakthrough you mentioned, it's not nonsense. It's true. I'll show you a video and you'll understand. As he spoke, the dean played the video of Mo guiding Mu Wanqing to break through in 5 minutes. Those people were all shocked when they saw it. This is actually true? But this is just too unbelievable. Even if I see it with my own eyes, I still can't believe it. Dean, I'm not doubting you, but this is too unbelievable. Could it be that this video is photoshopped? The parent who spoke regretted it as soon as he spoke. The instructors of Cloud Sea Academy had an extremely high social status on Cloud Sea Planet. Especially the dean of Cloud Sea Academy. It was said that he was a super evolved dragon. He was a big shot. Would he be angry with him for speaking to him like that? The dean shook his head and said, I've asked Instructor Mo, I've also asked Teacher Mo. He also said that after 10 days, if the child's temperament has been tempered to a certain level, he will guide that student. As for whether or not the other child would be able to break through, I was also looking forward to it. If any of you still have any doubts, you can come to me when the time comes. We'll know when we have a look. When the parents heard this, they looked at each other. Although they still found it hard to believe, they couldn't say anything else since the dean had already said so. In the end, they all nodded in agreement. Then let's wait and see if they can make a breakthrough in 10 days. Today was Emmosher's 10th day as an instructor. These 20 students were officially recognized by the system as Emmosher's disciples. That night, Emmosher said in his mind, "System, accepting 20 disciples can be considered a special event. Sign in for a special event." The system's voice sounded frowny face. Sign in successful. Sign in event, 20 new disciples. Sign in reward, Void Dragon 9 transformation skill and technique, Golden Dragon 9 transformation skill and technique. Emmosher was overjoyed. His guess was right. The system had indeed given him these two rewards. He immediately entered the space and learned the skills and techniques of the Void Dragon 9 transformations and the Golden Dragon 9 transformations. He had already mastered all the theoretical knowledge of the spatial and metal attributes. In this way, Emmosher had completely mastered all the theoretical knowledge of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. At the same time, he had also mastered all the theoretical knowledge of the 3 special attributes: thunder, poison, and space. He had mastered all the theoretical knowledge of 8 attributes. This was definitely an unprecedented existence in the history of the entire Myriad Dragon Star Zone. In the history of the entire Flaming Origin continent, the one who had mastered the most was a giant dragon known as the King of Chaos. That was a peerless genius. He was born with 2 types of elemental energy. Later, his dragon bloodline mutated twice, allowing him to possess 4 types of elemental energy. Finally, he had a fortuitous encounter and possessed all the 5 elemental energies. Because of this, he spent a lot of effort to study all the theoretical knowledge of the 5 elements. He became a master of the theoretical knowledge of the 5 elements. After him, no other giant dragon had mastered more than 4 types of elemental theoretical knowledge. After all, the dragon race had been passed down for millions of years. The theoretical knowledge of each attribute had accumulated to an unimaginable level. It was extremely time-consuming to completely master a single attribute. If you spent all your time on theoretical knowledge, would you still be able to cultivate? But now, Emmosher had mastered the theoretical knowledge of 8 attributes. Moreover, this knowledge was richer and more mature than any theoretical knowledge in the world. This was something that these giant dragons could not even imagine. The next day, before Emmosher arrived at the academy, more than 10 parents had already gathered in the dean's office. Now that 10 days had passed, they wanted to see what kind of ability this teacher who only taught their children war chess all day had. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Emmosher entered the academy on time. He let out a long yawn. Last night he played very late with Happy again. According to his habit, he would sleep until 11 or 12 o'clock before waking up. But after all, he was a teacher now and had to be a role model. Therefore he got up early and did not eat breakfast. Only then did he enter the classroom on time. As he looked at the podium, he shook his head secretly. It seemed that he had to control himself when he played in the future. In the dean's office, all the parents' gazes fell on Emmosher. In class 6-1, all the students' gazes also fell on Emmosher. Emmosher knew what they were waiting for. He nodded and said, "In the past 10 days I've been very satisfied with your performance in war chess. So I've decided that all of you can receive my guidance today." Wow, that's great. Really? The students immediately burst into an uproar. Emmosher glanced at the students, and the boiling students quickly suppressed their excitement. They were afraid that if they did not perform well, the teacher would take back what he had just said. Emmosher pointed at a thin boy and said, "Golden Sword, try to cultivate for me to see." Golden Sword nodded. His eyes were full of sharpness. He was already a 5th level evolved giant dragon, the one with the highest level in this class. After he finished cultivating, Emmosher shook his head and said, "Don't worry. When you run the 7th cycle, after the energy flows through the Silong acupoint, don't go through the Earth Dragon acupoint. Instead, go through the Dragon Spine acupoint first, and then go through the Sky Dragon acupoint. Nothing else changes." In the dean's office, Golden Sword's father suddenly became anxious. "You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.